I had a 1967 Impala, 4-door, that I bought in February 2019. A couple months ago, I bought my first house that had a 2.5 car garage. I moved the car in and started tearing it down for a complete restoration. I had the body in one bay and the chassis in another, plus the whole garage filled with parts. About 2 months ago, my girlfriend came to live with me during this whole crisis and the whole time has hated that car. She wants to park in the garage, but I have 2 acres of land with a lot of nice places to park under shady trees or heck even in the barn if it has to be inside. I tell her tough luck, it's my house, and it's not like I can just throw it back together real quick. Anyways, I was out of town for a couple days on a business trip for the small local company I work for. When I got back, my girlfriend was all smiles. Making me food all the time, doing all the chores, all that. I thought maybe she was just happy to have me home, but then I realized that I didn't see her car in its usual spot. I asked her where she parked so I could make sure I mow that area and keep it clean, and she said not to worry because she parked in the garage. I asked how and she told me to go check it out. Turns out that while I was gone she hired some people to come over and move everything related to that car, including the drivetrain, body, and chassis and all parts, and take it to the local dump/scrapyard. I was absolutely dumbfounded. I had spent over $11,000 on that car including new parts, services, and the car itself. I told her that I was going to be taking her to court for that and she brushed me off like I was being dramatic. I told her that it's done between us and to pack her things and leave. I admit I was really angry, but I did end up getting a lawyer, and as I have all the receipts for all that money spent and I have her on my house's security cam footage, letting the guys in and watching them take it all, I think I can win. Her family and friends are absolutely blowing me up saying it's just a stupid old piece of junk and that she cannot pay back all that money I spent, and that I should just let it go. But I have been putting all my time, effort, and money into that car for a year and a half now, and gosh darn it if I am not going to get justice for what she did. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I got a call from her mom about 20 minutes ago and she told me that I was ruining her daughter's life over a stupid car. I told her she ruined her own life. I've been gathering documentation and stuff and I'm about to head down to the police station and file a report, as suggested by Lots here. Update. Went to the police station last night, was told to come back in the morning. Just got back and filed an official report against her for grand larceny and grand theft auto. I showed them all the receipts I had for the car and the footage of her letting the guys come and take it as well as the title for the vehicle in my name. They said they will be in contact with all 3 parties, me, ex-girlfriend, and junkyard guys, soon and they will hopefully be able to recover some or all of the car. Just have to wait now. Huge update, they found my car. The junkyard guys apparently were in the middle of hiding it when the police came to ask them questions. It was on a forklift and they were gonna put it on top of a pile of cars that was hidden behind more piles of cars. They said it was theirs and they had the title, but obviously didn't have the title for it, and since they matched the VIN on the chassis and body to the VIN on my title, it was obviously mine. I know at least one person there has been arrested. I think he was in the camera footage I talked about earlier, but I don't know if it was the boss or whomever or even his specific charge. They also told me they would be looking into this specific junkyard for any other vehicles reported stolen. They said they haven't been able to get in contact with my ex just yet, but they're working on it. I'm just so glad they found my car. Luckily, I made quite an album of pictures detailing me tearing down the car, and so I can use that to prove what parts they had were mine, so I can hopefully get most or all of it back. Police haven't let me take it back home yet, as they say it is evidence or something, so hopefully I can get it back eventually. She's gonna be alright. Am I the a-hole for bringing my sister-in-law's wallet to the restaurant when she conveniently always forgets it? My F28 sister-in-law Amy, F26, always comes to visit from out of town. She stays with us instead of a hotel, and always wants to go to expensive restaurants. She always conveniently forgets her wallet, or comes up with some excuses as to why she can't pay her share. She has implied that since I make much more money than her, I should be the one to pay. No, not my husband should pay, but me specifically. I do make a fair amount of money, but not so much that I can treat someone every time they come into town. Nonetheless, in the past, I have just paid the bill and asked her to pay me back. She never has. She had made a reservation at an extremely expensive restaurant last night, and before we left, I made it clear that I wouldn't be paying her bill. This is where I might be the a-hole, and I'll admit I got this move straight from an episode of 2.5 Men. As we were leaving, she and my husband went to the car. I pretended I forgot something and went back inside. I found her wallet sitting right on top of her suitcase. I put it in my purse and we went to the restaurant. When we were done eating, I asked for separate bills. She said no, we need one bill, because she forgot her wallet again. I reached in my purse and said, "This wallet?" She was extremely furious. She said that I should not have touched or grabbed her wallet. So am I the a-hole for taking her wallet and bringing it to the restaurant? Edit, Amy just called me, she saw this post and she yelled at me for bad-mouthing her on the internet. Honestly, I don't care. Amy, hopefully reading all these comments is a wake-up call for you. Update. Some answers to common questions. Why does dear husband keep letting Amy in? Without getting into too much detail, he has always been expected to pay for nice things for the females in his family. He's also been kind of scammed out of large sums of money by his family. That's slowly been shut down over time, and we're working on shutting down this dinner/outings thing. He allows this because he feels bad that they don't have a lot of money. It's sad, but that's how his family got along for a very long time, being dishonest about anything and everything to get their hands on some extra money or extra financial help. I could write a book on some of the things I've seen them do over the years. It hasn't been easy to show these people how wrong this is. He has talked to Amy about being cheap, has had come to Jesus talks with her, and genuinely has always felt that each next time would be different. We've been in therapy addressing this, and he's learned to set boundaries. This restaurant thing is a boundary that he hadn't yet set. It's hard to set all boundaries all at once when you actually had no clue what boundaries were, and have had no boundaries for years. Does he pay too? We are married. My money is his money. When I mentioned Amy specifies I should pay, I meant more that she specifies since I make good money, we as a whole shouldn't be cheap. What was the point if you ended up paying? I knew Amy wasn't going to pay. She always finds a way not to pay. I went to the restaurant fully expecting to foot the bill. I did this because I saw it on a show and thought it would be funny to do IRL, to be completely honest. The point wasn't really to get her to pay, it was more to show her that the forgot my wallet excuse was getting old. Is Amy banned from visiting? Fortunately, this post turned out to be a good thing. Dear husband has always had it in his head that Amy is a good person and has her reasons for being sneaky and cheap, like I mentioned above. In his head, it's not her fault she is the way she is, it's the circumstances of their upbringing that cause her to make bad decisions. But, seeing Amy's reply to my post and people's response to Amy has really changed his thinking. That's the first time Amy has outright admitted that she's purposely taking advantage. Reading some of the other comments has also been eye-opening for him. So, dear husband has told Amy that she's not welcome here, at least not for a long while. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to share your story in the next video, comment on this one and I'll make it happen. Am I the a-hole for walking out of the airport when I saw my husband's mom standing there with her luggage? I F30 don't have the best relationship with my husband's mom. Since day one she tried to make remarks and compare me to her. She then tried to get on my good side and started overly praising everything I do and sometimes even copying me, like that one time when she literally dyed her hair purple just like mine, and when everyone pointed out how ridiculous she looked, she actually blamed me and accused me of trying to make a joke out of her. So, anyways, my husband and I took 2 weeks off work to go visit some places out of the country, tourism in other words. Thing is, I was the one who saved up for and arranged for the trip, my husband was responsible for booking the tickets. My husband's mom wanted to come along and threw temper tantrums when I said no. She called, texted, sent people to talk to me into letting her come, even threatened to call the police and make some complaint up to get us to stay if she can't come. My husband said we should just take her, but I told him he was wrong to tell her about the trip in the first place. He gave me an ultimatum. He said he wouldn't go if she can't come, and I told him I'd gladly call his bluff, which made him take his words back and say fine. I will tell her to stop it because we won't take her. Things got quieter, suspiciously quieter. The day of the trip came and we got to the airport at 2 p.m. My husband was walking ahead of me and was looking left and right like he was looking for someone. I asked him, but he didn't respond. He led me to the waiting area, and first thing I saw was his mom standing there with her luggage. I froze in my spot. I felt a cold wave washing over me, and I was fuming inside. She and my husband were hugging. That's when I quietly turned around and started walking towards the exit. My husband followed me while shouting at me to stop. He tried to stop me, but I told him off the harshest way possible. He tried to say I was overreacting and that his mom was there anyway and I should let it go and not mess the trip up for us. I told him he and his mom could still go and that I was going home. I went home and sobbed into my dog's fur for several minutes. Turned out he booked her a ticket without me knowing. An hour later, he came home yelling and raging about how pathetic and spiteful I was to walk out and go home and ruin the trip last minute. I told him he caused this to happen. He said that I was being so hard on his mom, it's ridiculous. I refused to fight anymore, but he kept on berating me, then called my family to tell them that the trip was cancelled and that it was because of me. My family said that I shouldn't have ruined it for myself and should have sucked it up and done my best to enjoy. Did I really overreact? Update, hello. I don't know where to begin. It's been an absolute nightmare recently, and I feel like I was losing my sanity. So for more details about my situation, I have to admit that my husband's mom favors him over all his siblings. This affected his relationship with them and me as well. He's never seen an issue with how differently his mom treats him. It bothered me and made me feel uncomfortable. The whole dynamic made me feel uncomfortable. Going low contact has never even been an option. Like he has to see her or call her every day. Most of his siblings don't talk to him, and I 100% believe it's because of his mom's favoritism, like I said. He does bear some blame for not seeing how wrong this is until this day. In many instances, I found myself making excuses for his behavior. Even in my post, I did it spontaneously, and I don't know why, but I guess it's because of how much I love him and because I really wanted to be able to work this type of things out without letting them affect our marriage. Regarding what happened with the trip, he tried to have a talk with me, and most of what he said came from place of blame. Blame towards me. I just couldn't continue with this argument. I told him I needed space and that I would be going to stay with my sister for a while. He didn't take it well. He literally got up from the couch and opened the door, telling me to go right then. In that moment, and seeing how he was still not even anywhere near understanding what he has done, just made things perfectly clear to me. I just had pictured years and years of my life being lived like that, and I was like, no. I can't do it, can't take any more of it, especially when he keeps focusing on being right every time. His mom can do no wrong. I'm always the aggressive, crazy, jealous, pathetic, overreactor. All these people's opinions, advice, and concerns were like a spark, like the wake-up call I really needed, though I wish that it didn't get this far, but what's done is done. Right now, I'm staying with my sister. I brought my dog with me as well. He sent me his last message, telling me I'm the one choosing to end what we had together, but I believe it's the other way around, especially with how he keeps making his mom the victim in this situation. It's become clear now that we keep going in circles with no end in reach, and I'm just so exhausted and overwhelmed. I'm not mad at him and don't expect him to change, but at least I'm given options to decide what's best for me and my future, even if it's separation and divorce. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that like button and follow my profile. And if you want to share your story in the next video, comment on this one and I'll make it happen. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdaughter to go ask her real dad when she asked me to pay for her plane tickets? I married my wife Elise 12 years ago. She has a 16-year-old daughter, Anna, from her previous relationship, and we have a 7-year-old son as well. From pretty much the beginning of our relationship, Anna and I have never gotten along. I don't know how to emphasize that it is not because of a lack of trying. She just does not like me. When she was young, she was just scared of me and afraid I would tear their family apart. Nowadays, it's more of a neutral dislike rather than strong antipathy, so I suppose that's progress. Elise is a stay-at-home mother, so she relies on me for income. As a result, I pay for everything for Anna. Food, clothes, volleyball fees, field trips. I take an interest in her hobbies. I go to her games. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I try my darn hardest to be the stepfather I can. But it's so hard. Always giving me curt one-word responses. Always having to have an attitude. She does things to get a rise out of me. Staying out late reeking of booze, always trying to sneak boys in. Typical rebellious stuff. But I always let her know I love her and I'm there for her in hopes of her stinkhead teenager phase passes. The opposite is true for her biological father. She adores him. Can't tell you why. He never goes to her games, always makes excuses for why he doesn't want to see her. He forgot her birthday last month and she cried herself to sleep. Well, anyways, Friday, I came to her room to check her phone and read her messages, not a permanent thing. But she's been caught sneaking out twice in the last month, so this is her punishment. I ask for the phone, she says, "No, I'm tired of you checking my stuff, leave me alone." I tell her I'm not asking again, and she goes, "Just F off already. You're not my real dad. You never have been. Stop acting like you can tell me what to do," before getting up and slamming the door. Like I said, guys, I'm tired. Tired of the blatant disrespect. Of being the verbal punching bag while still providing more for her than anyone else in her family. We haven't really talked since until this morning during breakfast. She asked if I could pay for her plane tickets so she could see her boyfriend cross-state. Like I said, her mom doesn't work and her dad is a POS, so I normally would be the one to cough up the money. Not this time. I responded, "Go ask your real dad." I could tell she was hurt. Tears swelled up from her face, and she excused herself from the table. My wife took me aside later and said my comment was extremely disrespectful. I said if anything's disrespectful, it's her treating me like a doormat and a credit card, and I will no longer tolerate this treatment in my house. I told her we don't have to be friends, but if she can't at least be cordial to me or respect my position as an authority figure, she can find someone else to pay for her non-essentials. Am I the a-hole? And to add more context, my wife is a saint. She does stick up for me when Anna says something rude or snarky. She just said stooping to her level was inappropriate. But she's a wonderful mom and tries her best. Update. Hey guys, it's been a good 2 weeks since I posted and I figured you guys would like an update. A lot has happened since the last time I posted. So that night, I did what many of the comments suggested I do, which was to apologize. I told her that I'm sorry, that implying that I'm not her real father, but like it or not that I consider her my daughter. That I loved her and will always be there for her. She started to cry and sob uncontrollably and said, "Why doesn't he, her biological father, love me?" I held her and told her she didn't need to fight for his approval. I also apologized for looking through her phone, that I've come to accept that it's not an appropriate punishment for a teenage girl, and I was going to find other alternatives. Lastly, I brought up therapy, and while she was hesitant at first, I let her know it was nothing to be ashamed of, that everything she said at therapy would be entirely confidential, and that it could help to have a confidant to help her sort through her feelings. She sat on this for the day, but the next day let me know that she was ready, so I set up the soonest appointment, which was last Friday, and her second appointment this afternoon. It's only been a week, so I don't want to get too optimistic, but honestly, I feel like I'm noticing an improvement already. She's actually been engaging back in small talk when normally she wouldn't give me the time of day. She's been following all of the rules, coming home at a reasonable hour. She's been less withdrawn and more social, even to the point where her brother commented on the change today. But the most exciting news of them all is when getting out the car on her way home from therapy, she said, and I quote, "Thanks, Dad." She's never called me Dad before, so honestly, I've been riding off that high for the last 2 hours. I'm not delusional enough to think everything's peachy, but honestly the behavior change in the last week was the most progress we've had since, well, ever. I'm cautiously optimistic going forward. Thanks again everyone for your comments, especially the ones who gave me the kick in the bum I needed. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to share your story in the next video, comment on this one and I'll make it happen. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my stepdaughter with her baby? I, F38, married my husband Sam, M47, 5 years ago. Sam always knew I did not want to have children of my own. He was fine with it. He has a daughter Leah, F25. His wife passed away when Leah was 10 years old, and I met him when she was 15. I didn't meet her till after a year of dating. She was a sweet young adult and we got along great. I did not move in with Sam till Leah left for college though. Leah got pregnant last year. Her boyfriend did not want to keep the baby, but she wanted to keep it. He broke up with her. Leah moved back in with us because she could not afford her lifestyle without him. She worked as a teacher, and he was the breadwinner. I had concerns about how she was going to raise a child on a teacher's salary by herself. I suggested getting him to pay child support. She did not want that. Sam thought I should stay out of it. Fine. But once she had the baby around 4 months back, Leah seemed to realize having a baby is not the sunshine and rainbows she thought it was. She barely got any sleep during the last 4 months, all the while Sam was helping her with the baby while I did almost all the chores myself. Now her leave is ending. She did not want to leave the baby at daycare or with a nanny. Sam and I both work as well. She asked if I could stay home with the baby. I said no. First, it is not my baby, and I never wanted to raise a child. Second, I have work. She asked Sam, who asked me to do it instead. I refused, stating the reasons again. Sam couldn't stay home because he earned more than me and covered more bills. I asked why Leah can't stay home with the baby herself. She said how she was young and had to build a career. I said many people take breaks to raise kids, and she broke down crying about how she was so tired all the time being a mom and she needed something else in her life too. Sam feels bad for her and thinks we should help her. I suggested she pay for a nanny with her income, but Leah doesn't want strangers looking after her baby. Both of them are pressuring me to stay home with the baby so she can go to work. I am standing firm on my decision. Leah said yesterday how she wished her mom was alive since she would have had her back. She said I didn't love her, and my husband is also mad at me. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my stepdaughter with her baby? Update. First of all, thank you for your support. I needed it more than I realized. Your replies, advice, and suggestions gave me a lot to think about. I was taking this situation independently and not really seeing the whole picture. I had some tough conversations with my husband and stepdaughter. I showed my husband the post and replies. He was upset I posted about this on social media, but I convinced him it's anonymous and we would not have any ramifications. The sad truth is, even with the overwhelming number of NTAs, he refused to see the point. He accepts I have always been true about my boundaries. But he still needs me to step up and help out more. Be more understanding. I realize the fact is, he sees his daughter as his baby girl and me as the adult in this situation. So, he needs me to act like an adult and support the child. I tried to make him realize she is not a child, she made her own decisions, and she needs to be an adult. He says I won't get how a parent would feel and he needs to be there for her. I realized his long-term plan is to keep supporting her as long as he can, and she wants it. To be frank, I sort of respect his stand. A father wanting to be there for his daughter and wanting to live for her is admirable. But that is not the life I envisioned. Loving grandmother that babysits occasionally? Sure. But raising Leah and her baby? Nope. Before we decided on anything extreme, we had a talk with Leah as well. To know what her plans are, we revisited the topic of child support, and this time her dad was adamant to know why. Your replies made him concerned, I think. Well, apparently, the reason is Leah is still in love with him. She is scared pushing a court case and responsibility on him on a decision she made will scare him away. She is still holding on to the hope he will come back. We don't think she is being realistic, but have decided to table that talk for later since Sam is anyway ready to fund the baby's life. And child support can be demanded with back pay when she decides to follow up. We offered her multiple solutions, such as lesser work hours, career change, nanny, daycare. She did not accept any offer. She loves the school she works at and does not want to leave it. She claims reducing hours will impact her career trajectory, and since she wants to work, she might as well work full-time. She does not want to leave the baby with strangers, nanny/daycare, and is refusing to hear it. She wants her baby to grow up with family feeling loved, and she can't be at peace unless she knows one of us is with the baby. Sam is refusing to cut down hours himself since he can't afford the bills himself. Let me clarify. He had refinanced this house to pay for her college education, did not want her to have any loans. I had suggested we downsize from this 3-bedroom house to a 1-bedroom one we can both afford. He wanted to have space for his daughter. I understood that, but I couldn't afford to pay for it. We came to an understanding I wouldn't pay for it and wouldn't have any rights to the house either. That is his biggest payment. We split the rest of the expenses proportionate to our income till Leah moved back in. She doesn't help financially. I contributed to normal day-to-day expenses, but all baby-related expenses are being met by Sam. If Sam stops working or reduces hours, he won't be able to do all these. I would take up being the breadwinner, but we would have to downsize, and Leah would at least have to cover all baby-related expenses herself. Neither of them wants that. The conclusion of all discussions was the same. They needed me to stay home with the baby. Sam wouldn't be putting anything in my savings or retirement funds, because he won't have funds for that. He also thinks it isn't necessary since I can just go back to work when the baby starts school. Long story short, I left, packed all my clothes and stuff, put everything I have in my car, and am now crashing at a friend's home. I don't have any rights to the house or own any furniture there, so leaving was easy. I have booked an appointment with my lawyer. I think this is the best decision I can take for myself. Both Sam and Leah called me a selfish a-hole for leaving. I guess it will have to be this way. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to share your story in the next video, comment on this one and I'll make it happen. Am I the a-hole for trashing the gift my girlfriend got me? So, me, 28M, and my girlfriend, 30F, have been together for 8 years and we have been living together for 4 years. Girlfriend has always been the artsy type and always has some personal project going, but she has the tendency to get lost in her own world. We celebrated my birthday last weekend, and she ended up getting me a pencil lengthier. I don't use pencils, and the lengthier in question didn't even fit your typical number 2, it was purely for colored pencils. I also don't color. When she asked me if I liked it, I just quietly walked outside our home and tossed it in the trash. She was understandably upset and called me an a-hole for doing that, claiming that I could have at least tried it. Here's the thing, she has been doing things like this ever since we started living together. She has been gifting me things that she likes and ultimately ends up using them. For example, last year she got a packet of Sailor Moon stickers. I don't watch Sailor Moon and she ended up using them all. She also gifted me a jewelry box one time. I don't wear jewelry, so guess who's been using it all this time? First world problems at its finest. So, it's been a few days, and she's still upset and has even got both of our parents to berate me for trashing the gift. She even admitted she knew I would hate it and was planning on using it after I calmed down in a few days, a detail that she did share with others, but I am still getting name-called. Am I really the a-hole? Edit, nearly every comment says we need to talk about this. The thing is we have, and more than once. She admitted she does this because she wants something but decides to gift it to me to say, I tried. I asked if I gave her a wish list that would help, and she said that she would never look at it, and well, she didn't when I made and sent one to her. She on the other hand does have a wish list, which I do get her stuff from, and some of that stuff is actually expensive. I was not expecting this much attention. I want to thank everyone for commenting and giving advice. Sorry I couldn't get to you all. I wasn't expecting to make an update, but there's been a development. Before that, I want to address a few things. Many commentators said that my girlfriend is a narcissist or has some personality disorder. Probably should have mentioned this before, but she has ADHD, which she is medicated for, so she has always been pretty scatterbrained. However, it did get noticeably worse when we moved in together, such as blowing plans, because she either forgot completely or forgot the part where we agreed on them, or forgetting to do any errands or chores, because she is just so invested in something, usually an art project. There was one comment that resonated with me that said that I must have been conditioned to accept this kind of behavior. That is accurate. My parents always instilled into me to be grateful and happy for getting anything at all, because they got nothing when they were younger. If I got a sack of poop as a gift, I was expected to dance like Happy Prospector. If this at all explains my tolerant/doormat behavior. The update. Despite using a throwaway, my girlfriend still found the post. She was very miffed by the responses and tried to vent to her friends, but they weren't on her side. She then decided to show the post to her and my siblings. They wanted to know if it was true, and when confirmed they all yelled at her, and they got our respective parents to calm down and stop talking about it. She came to me over the weekend, and after talking about it, since then we kind of worked over several things. She recognized that she really did screw up, and as an apology she gave me this cool dragon diffuser I've been wanting for a while, and a box of all the stuff I was gifted, telling me I may do whatever I please with them. She's also open to not receiving gifts for the next couple of special occasions, which I will be doing. So, when it came down to her selfish gift giving, apparently what she meant by "I tried" was her forgetting about these occasions up until the last minute and not wanting to admit it. She hastily gets them off of Amazon from whatever shows up first on her homepage and just hopes I'll like them enough to not say anything negatively, and uses them when I won't. She refused to look at my wish list because gifts should be a surprise, but when I brought up her list, she had no answer. She said she'll look at mine from now on. I don't think this is a deal breaker, but it does need to end, and well, most of you were right, there were other issues. We have agreed to therapy, single and couples, which she will pay for. This may not be what you were expecting, but I think it's a good start. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to share your story in the next video, comment on this one and I'll make it happen. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my son's teacher and making her cry? Last Thursday, I, 36M, got a call from my son's school, telling me I needed to come and collect him because he had passed out during class. My son has passed out a good few times before, so we've made sure he knows what to do when he starts to feel faint, to make sure he doesn't hurt himself. However, when I arrived at the school, my son was holding an ice pack to his head. When I asked about it, the nurse told me he had hit his head when he fell. I wondered why he hadn't laid down like we taught him to do. I brushed it off and decided to ask him about it later, as he was still kind of out of it. The next day, I asked him about it, and what he told me made my blood boil. Apparently, when my son had first started to feel like he was going to pass out, he tried to tell his teacher. When he stood up to talk to her, he was immediately yelled at to sit back down. The next time he tried to tell her, she told him that he didn't look sick, so he wasn't allowed to go to the nurse's office. Then, his class was doing an activity that required standing for practically the rest of the lesson. Before the activity started, my son yet again told this teacher that he felt like he was going to pass out and asked if he could sit the activity out. The teacher responded by yelling at him, claiming he was just being lazy and was making excuses. My son's friend was getting worried about him, so he told the teacher, who then started yelling at his friend, accusing them both of trying to get out of lesson. Not even a minute later, my son passed out, and according to his friend and a couple other classmates, she acted very shocked, as if she hadn't been ignoring him trying to tell her how he felt for the last 5 minutes. I'm extremely worried about the impact this will have on my son, as when the fainting first started, he didn't tell any of his teachers as he was scared that they were going to yell at him. This resulted in quite a few injuries from falling. It has taken a while for him to start telling them when he's feeling faint, and I'm afraid this incident will cause him to stop asking and he will hurt himself. I had wanted to go down to the school that day, but my son had stayed off and my wife wasn't home from work yet. The following Monday, I arranged an appointment with the principal. After I explained what had happened, he called in my son's teacher, who then tried to deny the fact that he ever told her anything and he had just randomly collapsed. This is where I may be the a-hole. By this point I was pissed. I began to scream at her, yelling about how my son could have gotten hurt. I was so pissed I hadn't even noticed that she'd started to cry. By that point I was asked to leave by the principal. My wife and some of my friends think I'm in the right, but my parents and the other half of my friends think I went too far. I don't know about this one. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole? Edit, I'm just gonna answer some frequently asked questions, that the answers weren't included in the original post. 1. We are not in the US, so a 504 plan is not in place, however, we do have something similar. 2. My son is in the middle of getting a diagnosis. Doctors say the most likely option is POTS. 3. My son is 13, and I would say he's a fairly well-behaved kid, only sometimes getting in trouble for stupid things that 13-year-old boys do. He usually stops after he gets a verbal warning. We've never had any major issues with his behavior. 4. Yes, the teacher was aware of his episodes. Update. The new school year starts tomorrow, and we've just been notified that this teacher will not be returning for the new school year. The email we received claimed she has decided to move on to new opportunities. However, me and my wife have had a talk with some other parents, and unsurprisingly that is not the case. Apparently, my son was not the first or last student she has done this to. This teacher is notorious for never letting anyone leave her classroom for anything, unless she can physically see something wrong with them. Even then there have been a few instances when she's told students having things like eczema flare-ups to wait until the end of class. She even tried to do the same thing to my son when he was having another episode. Luckily, since the last incident he's learned to ignore her, and he and his friend went down to the nurse despite what she said. At the beginning of summer, my wife got a call from one of the other mothers, who explained that the teacher had tried to do the same thing to her daughter. As it turns out, she had a friend on the school board and is very well liked by all parents and staff. She arranged a meeting with the teacher, the principal, the school board and the superintendent to discuss this teacher's behavior. Before the meeting she spent ages compiling evidence against this teacher. She managed to get the medical forms of the students she denied access to the nurse to, with permission from the parents of course. She somehow got all the reports of her behavior towards students. She got statements from students, parents, and other members of staff. She even got a couple students who had more serious incidents to come to the meeting with their parents and recount what had happened. We couldn't be there since we were going on vacation, but both my son and his friend filmed them telling what happened and we gave it to the mother to play at the meeting. When it finally came time for the meeting, the teacher had not anticipated that the mother would be so prepared, and after an hour in the meeting, the teacher was finally fired after 6 years of mistreating students. If you're wondering how she kept her job so long, I was too. Turns out she was a NEPO hire. The principal is her uncle. For all those wondering how my son is doing, he's doing a bit better, though his episodes have been happening more frequently as of late. Thank you all for the advice and well wishes on the original post. Salt does seem to help sometimes. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to share your story in the next video, comment on this one and I'll make it happen. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend I want to spend our date alone with her and not with her sister and nieces? I, 28F, have been with my girlfriend, 28F, for over 6 years now, and due to her mental health, we haven't had a chance to go on a date in a very long time. I have invited her out multiple times, but she always refuses, which again I fully understand why. We finally planned to go to my favorite park and have dinner afterwards, which she offered to pay for, and I was so excited to finally spend quality time with her. We live together and spend time together indoors, but it isn't the same as going out on a date, so I was really looking forward to it. She decided to visit her sister and nieces yesterday and stay the night, which I thought was lovely. They haven't seen each other in a while, so it's not a problem. So, this morning I get ready to have a shower as we plan to meet for lunch at the park. She checks in with me to make sure that everything is still good and then messages me to tell me that she invited her nieces and sister along as they would love to go to the park. I'm a little confused as I thought this was a date, which I mention, and she said that spending time with the girls would make the date even better for her. Now I do not have an issue with going to the park with them. Honestly, if this was just a random park trip, I would have said bring them along anyway, as that would have been nice, but this was supposed to be a date. So, I explained to her that I wanted to spend quality time with her today and I wished she asked me first, before inviting anyone along. She got upset and started saying that the girls will always come first and that she hasn't spent any quality time with them at all this week, but has done so with me. In my eyes, a date is very different to spending time alone at home. We had a little argument, but I made it clear to her that my issue wasn't the fact that we were going to spend time with the girls that day. I love spending time with them and her sister, but that this was supposed to be a date. I said we could have just rescheduled the date and had a park outing with them today instead, but she was telling me that I'm selfish and that she can't believe how I can be such a terrible person. She then said this word for word: if we had planned a candlelight dinner by the beach or something, and they want to go, they can. If you want to date me, you should get used to them crashing our dates. I have not yet replied to her message. I feel as though that it's important that it's just me and her, otherwise it isn't a date, and at the moment I don't feel special to her or valued as a partner, and I should now go into every date with the expectation that she will bring someone along with her. She has now cancelled, as she showed her sister our messages, and they said they don't want to go out now because of this mess. I spoke to my sister, and she agrees with me that a date is between the couple, not family. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole when I said I wanted to spend our date with just her and not anyone else? Edit, thank you all for the support. I have posted a quick update in the comments. Nothing big, just addressing a few questions. Hey everyone, so super quick update, I decided to go for a walk by myself to the park and I enjoyed it. Of course, I would have preferred to be there in different circumstances, but I didn't want to just stay home and wallow in self-pity. I got back home just under an hour ago and spent this time thinking about what to do, and after reading all your messages I just wanted to thank you all for the support. I'm glad to know I wasn't just making a big deal out of nothing as I was starting to believe. I of course do not want to be a low priority in any relationship and will speak to her about it when she gets home. I still haven't responded to her message as I would prefer to speak in person, which I will do when she gets home from her sister's house. A few notes to answer some questions. No, she does not work due to the intense therapy she receives. I won't go into detail about her issues as it is not my place to say. As mentioned above, she is currently going through DBT therapy, which has been helping a lot, hence why we were able to finally schedule a time for the date today. I do support her financially, but she has also helped me out too many times as she does receive her own FORM of income. She even offered to pay for the dinner today, so it definitely is not just one way, so I highly doubt she is just with me for money. No, she does not have kids of her own, only her two nieces, F3 and F5. I will make a full update again once I have spoken to her properly. In the meantime, I will do something for myself and do some gardening. Once again, thank you all for the support. Update. Just want to start with thanking everyone who commented on my original post. I was honestly not sure whether I was right or in the wrong. It helped so much to be validated, so thank you all again. A lot has happened since I made my first post, so I'll try to condense it as much as I can. After reading your comments, and realizing I actually do have a reason to want to spend a date alone with my girlfriend, I decided to try to talk to her when she got home and also explain a few things to her that I did not realize myself until reading your comments. sometimes it's hard to get your point across properly through text, so it's always best to speak face to face. When my girlfriend came home later that day, I tried to talk to her, but she blew up and nothing really was solved, so I tried again the next day and it went pretty much the same way. She was denying she had done anything wrong and telling me I was the one in the wrong. Eventually, I just told her that I couldn't do this anymore or be with someone who thinks that what she did was okay. I think this sent her into a panic because she became even more verbally aggressive, to the point I just left the convo and didn't talk to her. We barely spoke for a few days while I tried to figure out what to do, until she came to me and asked to talk. She explained that she had thought about what I said to her when she came home and understood why I was upset. I then found out that her sister had been feeding her a lot of hate about me and explained that because of her mental health condition she can be very easily manipulated into a certain viewpoint, which I honestly do see. She apologized and I did tell her how hurt I was by everything, and it will take a long time to get over this, to which she said she understood. Some of you suggested placing boundaries in the relationship. I brought this up in the conversation, suggested a few boundaries, and she has agreed to and respects this, which I was quite shocked to hear. Since that day things have been okay between us and we have been taking things slow. She has also come to the realization that the relationship she has with her sister is extremely toxic and how manipulative she is. A fight happened between them a few days ago. I don't really have the space to go into detail, but it really put into perspective how narcissistic and manipulative she is. My girlfriend has since again apologized to me for everything, and I have accepted her apology. I can see how she was being manipulated by her sister. I'm not sure what will happen moving forward, but just wanted to give an update as people have been asking, and to let you guys know that things between my girlfriend and I have now been sorted. Thank you all again for your comments on my first post. It really did help with resolving this situation. I just hope that my girlfriend doesn't get sucked back into her sister's way of thinking again. We will just have to wait and see. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to share your story in the next video, comment on this one and I'll make it happen. Am I the a-hole because I told my fiancé that her academic/work-related disappointments are a product of her own choices? I, 29M, have been with my fiancé, 29F, for around 15 years. We are pretty much inseparable in every aspect, except for when it comes to academic dedication and career planning/development. I grew up poor. So, my only goal growing up was to have financial security. This naturally led to me always being hungry for academic achievements. My fiancé's family did not have any financial troubles. She was always a partygoer, so she never wanted to utilize her potential. She always said that your whole life is not about studying, you should have fun while you're young. And I really tried to match up that lifestyle. We'd spend days doing stuff together, doing whatever she felt like doing. This, as exhaustive as it was, I was running on less than 4 hours of sleep, kept her happy, and I was having fun with her, so I didn't mind. There'd come a time where I'd decline going out or doing stuff for prolonged amounts of time, usually while crushing deadlines were quickly approaching and I was becoming overwhelmed, and she'd get irritated. I even tried to arrange study dates, but that failed miserably, because she'd always do the bare minimum and then move on, which was considerably faster than what I was able to do. This became an everyday reason to fight. I've completed all my degrees, including masters, with the highest distinction, have landed a high-paying job, and I mainly work from home. You can say that I achieved my goal, and it took a lot of crying to get here, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. She, on the other hand, never got accepted for masters, graduated late, did not get to work in her own field, and struggles to make ends meet on her own to cover her own half of the bills. I've been trying to be comforting, offer her solutions, and reassure her that I don't mind covering up for us, because I truly love her, and I know she'd do the same for me. For the past couple of weeks, she has been blaming everyone for the impasse she has hit. Her teachers for her bad grades, employers for requiring prior relevant work experience, which she has none, her friends for tempting her to go out, her parents for not giving her their will/sustaining her. They are both like mid-50s, and me for not pressuring her to study enough. I usually shrug it off, understand that she is just frustrated and disappointed, and try to be a good boyfriend for her. Lately, she is also nagging me for not spending time with her. We spend every day afternoon together after my shift. So, in the culmination of a series of intense discussions, I told her that she is the sole person responsible for her current situation, and that she wasted her potential and ultimately rendered herself below average, now facing the consequences. She called me an a-hole and left the house. It's been eating me away since. Am I the a-hole? Update. Hi all, I took your feedback in, understood that my phrasing was largely misguided, and stood my ground more firmly against my fiancé's accusations while maintaining empathy to the best of my ability. I want to clarify that my previous post wasn't meant to judge others' journey, and I don't criticize anyone based on their academic success. It was specific to the situation presented, and my phrasing was evidently poorly chosen. My mistakenly more abruptly phrased point was that she could have made it in college, but didn't wish to, and while that's okay and completely up to her, she shouldn't blame others for how her career has advanced. I finally contacted my fiancé and asked her to meet me so we could talk. Apparently, both her parents and her sister took my side on the matter, important for later. She had fled her parents' house and was living with a friend. I told her I love her and explained how I didn't mean to imply that she squandered her potential irreversibly, and told her that I believe we can fix things if we work together. I apologized for my ill-tasted comment, and I repeatedly told her that my point was never to demean or disdain her, and that I do not consider her to be below me. I tried to explain that none of us obstructed her journey to success, and that we do not bear accountability for her academic path, but we are all here to support her. I encouraged her to try whatever she thinks is best right now, and promised that I'd support her, emotionally and financially, so she can make any dream of hers happen and we can finally move on. I expected to meet in the middle ground, acknowledge our respective mistakes and work together to grow our relationship. But I was met with silence at first, a chuckle, and then she told me that I patronize her for offering to cover her bills, followed by her explaining that my support is a way to make myself feel better about my accomplishments, as if, and I quote, I can't make it on my effing own. She concluded that I was trying to manipulate the situation by acting like the good guy, and that in reality her current situation, professional and with her parents, is my doing. Now, some commenters from the previous post mentioned the above narrative, so I was very conflicted on how to answer the above in a non-condescending way and wanted to respect her feelings. The best thing I could think of was recommending couples therapy, as per your recommendation, which she declined, saying that throwing more money away won't make up for the emotional neglect. I couldn't answer here, mainly because I was on the verge of crying. After a few minutes of silence, I suggested ending the relationship and she instantly agreed. Thank you all for your comments, they certainly added to me seeing things more spherically, and made me a better person than before. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to share your story in the next video, comment on this one and I'll make it happen. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's fiancé that we don't owe her a family? My F25 stepbrother Nico, 29, has recently got engaged to a woman called Jenny after dating for 2 years. We all tried to welcome Jenny, especially knowing that she grew up in the foster care system and didn't have a family. We tried to get to know her, but she seemed to want an instant intimate connection rather than building one. Me and my younger stepsister Chelsea, 22, bore the brunt of her neediness, but our parents have also expressed concerns. Since she met us, she has been trying to insert herself into pictures, family disputes, and social events. She has no boundaries. We've all talked to Nico about it so many times, even sitting him down as a family, and he keeps saying he will talk to her, but nothing changes, and it's got worse since the engagement. She tried to make me her maid of honor, demanded my mother throw her a bridal shower, started calling my parents' mom and dad, even though they asked her not to, and reached out to distant family members that we don't even talk to tell them about the engagement. Last week we were all, Chelsea, Nico, me, and our partners, staying at our parents' place. Jenny, Nico, and my boyfriend were the only ones not up yet, and the rest of us were in the kitchen. Chelsea, my mum, and I were talking about taking a weekend trip. Jenny came in, having overheard us, saying it sounded like fun, and proceeded to invite herself along. I was pretty annoyed by this, and said she couldn't just invite herself. Jenny said why wouldn't she be invited, and I said because marrying Nico doesn't give you a blanket invite to every single thing all his family does. Jenny got upset and said she would really like to be included in our family, since it was the only one she knows and she doesn't have a proper family. I said I know that, and we all sympathize, but that doesn't mean we owe you a new one. The whole room was silent, and Jenny got up and went back upstairs. She didn't come out the rest of the day, but Nico came down to chew me out over what I said. Our parents defended me, saying he had an opportunity to talk to Jenny and he didn't. He and Jenny left the same day, and he's now only keeping low-level contact with everyone. When I've spoken to him since, he's just said I went way too low with what I said to Jenny, and that I've set her back mentally, and that she's really down. I do feel bad, but I also feel like Jenny has been overstepping. We are all open to a relationship with her. We all have good relationships with partners in the family, but she never really made a genuine effort to build relationships with us. She just decided she was entitled to them, which I think isn't fair. I don't know if I should reach out to Nico or Jenny with a more fervent apology, which I will if I have really screwed up here. I don't want to be the reason Nico stops talking to us. I just feel like he dropped the ball by letting it get to this point. Edit. Okay, I'm adding this, because I thought it was implied, but maybe not. We do push back when Jenny is being intrusive. I can't count how many times I have said, Jenny, I'm not comfortable talking about my intimacy life, /therapy, /medication, etc. It's really personal. Can we just change the subject? We move on from the conversation, but the next time I talk to her it's back to square one. Same with my parents, they politely ask her not to call them mom and dad, and she stops for the duration of that conversation, and then starts again next time. We've never had a more in-depth conversation with her. We offered, and Nico said no, he would talk to her. Edit 2. For everyone saying I should consider Jenny family because she's engaged to Nico, that isn't what I meant with that comment. I commented on this elsewhere, but I'm copying because it encapsulates what I was trying to get across. I never said or meant that she isn't part of the family. I guess what I meant with what I said was, you can't parachute yourself in and expect us to be the family you deserve. Because the family every person deserves is one with their mom and their dad, and it's happy, and it's from birth, and you don't have to do anything to earn it. Sadly, not everyone gets that. I know I didn't. And I know how much it must suck for her to feel like she has to work for what other people got for free. I have a poopy bio dad, so I kind of know. You think, why do I have to be good and clever and kind and a million other things to have a good family while all anyone else has to do is just be born, and it's the worst. But when you come into a family that already exists, that's the way it is. They learn to love you, and it takes time. My stepdad didn't love me the second he met me, or loved me just because he loved my mom. He got to know me, and figured out who I was as a person, and he loved me for me. We wanted to have that opportunity with Jenny, and maybe that doesn't feel good enough for her, and I guess it's not really fair that she doesn't have the other kind of unconditional love, but I don't think that's up to us, or anyone, to fix. That's just my view. Update. Well, that post blew up. In no small part to my extensive replies while sitting in an airport lounge on a layover. I am still getting messages asking for an update, so here goes. First, thanks everyone for your advice. I received some really insightful messages and comments which were really helpful and heartfelt. Long story short, we decided to have a session with a family mediator. It was me, my boyfriend, Jenny, Nico, my parents, and Chelsea. I'm not sure I can fit in all the insights from the session, so I'll keep to key things. Firstly, for all those wondering if Nico ever actually told Jenny what we said. Nico talked to Jenny about our concerns precisely twice, a third of the times we brought it up. She said it was presented to her as an offhand comment from our parents rather than the intervention it was. Second, basically one of the main things that came up was how Nico kind of sold our family to Jenny as a blended family she could slot into, and she got really invested in that. Nico said he kept hoping that it would all work itself out once Jenny felt more secure in their relationship. Then came the real crux. Jenny said she wasn't just looking for a relationship with Nico, but with a whole family. And we all had a long discussion about what that looked like for us in an ideal world, and it was vastly different. Then the mediator asked her the question: if you never get the relationships you want from this family, do you think you'll still be able to have a happy relationship? And she said she didn't know. This kind of triggered Nico, who said he felt like Jenny was making him feel like he wasn't enough on his own, that she wanted a family from him more than a relationship with him. Then Jenny got upset and said why couldn't we all just try to be the family she needed? At which point my boyfriend had an uncharacteristic moment of insanity and went off on her. Then he and I left the room. I was right in the middle of lecturing him when everyone else came out except Nico and Jenny and said that they needed the rest of the session to discuss what had been said. Nico came back to our parents' place later and said he and Jenny are taking a beat because she's ruminating on what the mediator said, and he's pretty crushed that she might not want to be with him if he doesn't come with a ready-made family attached. He said he was prepared to pretty much give up a family for her, but she won't even give up the idea of one for him. He's now staying with my boyfriend and me until further notice. We haven't had any further conversations with him and Jenny, he's not in the headspace for it. If they stay together, I foresee a lot more mediation. At the end of the day, everyone on the thread was right in some way. I was an a-hole for saying what I said in the way I said it, and this conversation between all of us should have happened earlier. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to share your story in the next video, comment on this one and I'll make it happen.
Am I the a-hole for saying I'll be driving myself and paying for my own room on the upcoming family vacation so I won't have to be a babysitter? I 23M was repeatedly stuck playing the part of helper and babysitter on family outings. I had to move out of my parents' house because I kept being forced to help watch my 3 nephews. Last year we took a family vacation in summer to the coast. I rode along with my parents, and they paid for my hotel room, but I had to share that room with 3 rowdy boys because my sister and her husband wanted a room to themselves. I was promised time to do my own things on the vacation, but instead I ended up having to help with these kids. I complained to everyone about it, and was reminded I was there for free, and then we pretty much just did only one thing I wanted to do, which was tour an art gallery. I like doing this whenever I'm at the coast, but the kids find it boring. This year my parents have a beach trip planned for June, and they assumed I'd be riding along the same way as last year, but I refused. I said I'd be driving myself, and paying for my own hotel stay to have my own room. My parents were shocked, and tried to remind me of the cost. I said it was no worry. I've got a good job and a decent running car, I can more than afford it. That's when the buts started. I stated the previously listed things as why I'll be driving myself and paying for myself. I want to be able to enjoy this vacation as an adult, and not be treated like a child like last year. My parents told my sister, and she called to blow up at me that I'll be ruining the vacation if I'm off doing my own thing while she has to wrangle her 3 boys. I ended up yelling at her that last year all she did was rope me into her mess. I didn't really get to do much of anything I wanted to do. And I was treated like the bad guy for wanting to just go to an art gallery. I'm a grown man, I deserve my own vacation too. Now my sister is not speaking to me, and my parents are still trying to convince me to just ride with them to keep the peace. I'm still refusing, but the pressure is getting to me. Am I the a-hole for not giving in? I know they'll have a pretty hard time when they won't have another person there to help. Edit. It's barely been an hour since I posted, but my sister is apparently a Reddit lurker in the mornings, and she saw my post. Not only is she furious with me, but she's also upset no one in the comments is siding with her. To make it short, she went on a big rant about how it's so hard to be a parent to triplets. And the least I could do is help because I'm young and single, and she needs a break. I stood my ground on my decision, and now she's calling our parents to get them involved. I'm expecting a call from them any minute. Update, well I'm off work now. so I can tell more of what went down. I guess you could say it's over. My sister got our parents involved, they looked at my post, and were absolutely horrified by the continuous influx of commenters. Yes, they're very angry with me that I posted here, but I told them that if they just listened to me to begin with, I'd have never needed to. I'm sick of the whole keep the peace mentality that sacrifices me to placate my sister. They in turn went off on my sister, and to make a long story short, the whole vacation has been cancelled. The hotel wasn't booked yet anyway, but my parents are arguing with my sister is blaming me, and my nephews are crying because they aren't going to the beach. My sister called me at lunch and basically implied I have no life, which is why I have time to help. I recorded that and told our parents, and that's currently what they're fighting about. Small update, I wasn't gonna update again, but here's a little more. Parents said that they won't ever push babysitting of my nephews on me again, and have agreed that what happened last year was unfair to me. Right now they're very angry with my sister for telling me I should help her because she thinks I have no life. My sister is playing the victim, and my brother-in-law is basically saying, nope, to the whole mess and spending most of his time at work. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my family for getting me a birthday cake I don't want for the 15th year in a row? Unfortunately, I, 18F, was born a day after my cousin, 20F. Ever since I was little, my needs for my birthday were always outshined by hers. We always did family events to celebrate our birthdays since we're the oldest kids in our family, so we kind of just shared a birthday. We had the same cake, my family either never wrote my name on it, or would messily scribble it on at the last minute, party decorations and games catered to her taste, and mostly all gifts would be for her. I just usually ended up getting a $10 gift card for Walmart or something, while she always got dolls, games for her Nintendo DS, and even a puppy one time. I always felt like that I didn't matter for my birthday. Even my quinceañera fell flat, since my family went all out making my cousin feel like the most special girl in the world. But my cousin was always nice to me, and she would give me some of her gifts just to put a smile on my face. This year was my 18th birthday, and all my relatives were gathered in one place to celebrate me and my cousin's birthday. My mother had promised me my own separate cake, and that it'll be an Oreo ice cream cake, my favorite cake. So I was excited. When my abuela gathered the family together to blow out the candles and sing happy birthday, my cousin and I got in our respective spots. They started singing while my mother brought a cake to the table and placed it in front of my cousin. It was a strawberry cheesecake. After we got done singing, my cousin blew out her candles and everybody clapped. My aunt started to cut the cake, and I would audibly ask about my cake. My entire family looks confused, and they all say, "This cake is for the both of you." My cousin spoke up, saying, "But it only has my name on it." I looked to my mom, who had a "what?" expression on her face. I asked about the cake, and she told me, "You don't need the extra sugar." At that point, I just lost it, screaming at my family members and calling them all a-holes. I cried about how this is the 15th year in a row that they've left me out and forgot about me, and how they ruined my birthday by always prioritizing my cousin. My cousin and little brother also jumped in and defended me, saying that I'm always never thought of. My abuela had the audacity to deliberately interrupt me, telling me to sit down and stop yelling. Through anger, I yelled that I never wanted to see any of them again and stormed off. My cousin and brother followed me, all comforting me while I cried my eyes out. This happened a few days ago, and I've been receiving angry messages from my family members calling me an ungrateful bee. I'm at my cousin's apartment right now writing this, all while texting my little brother to vent. Reddit, am I the a-hole for yelling at my family for not giving me the cake that I've wanted for nearly my entire lifetime? Edit. After reading the replies, my cousin and I have made the tough decision to block all of the toxic family members and go non-contact. I'll be living at my cousin's apartment now, and we're working on finding me a job. Final edit. I won't be responding to any more comments, but just know that I'm in a safe place right now, and we're working on where to go from here, not just a job, but finding a way to afford college for me and such. Thank you. There might be update posts soon since a lot happened after the drama of going no contact. Am I the a-hole for refusing to rent my house to my fiancé's mother? I just don't want to be my future mother-in-law's landlord. I think doing business of any kind of family, or future family, is a slippery slope. I own a second home that currently is being rented out to a few people as a shared house. The master bedroom is now up for rent as the previous tenant moved out, and my future mother-in-law wants to rent my room. The location and neighborhood is perfect for her, as well as the size of the room and amenities. She's willing to pay the full rent and sign a lease, but I told her I don't think it's a good idea to have a landlord-slash-tenant type relationship with her, and she's really upset and has refused to talk to me for days now. My reasons for not wanting to rent is primarily because the long-term purpose of this house is for my parents to eventually retire in when the time comes, maybe in 5 to 8 years. I expect my parents to move in and have the whole house to themselves eventually. It's my retirement gift for them. My parents and my future mother-in-law has met once before and they absolutely did not hit it off, because not only did it become apparent that they come from very different background and social statuses and therefore have very different topics of interest and opinion on things, future mother-in-law got so inebriated at their first meeting. She started getting really loud and also made a comment about how she's glad I am a lawyer because her and her daughter's futures will be taken care of by me. That rubbed my parents the wrong way, but they liked my fiancé and trust my judgment, so they're just going along with it. I know if future mother-in-law were to move in, she will not be moving out on her own accord as my house is in a city that she has always wanted to retire in. I think I'd be in a very weird spot in about 5 years having to kick her out in order to let my parents move in. I'll admit secretly another reason is also because I'm concerned about her being late or completely missing paying rent and having to handle the awkwardness of dealing with that. Maybe I am an a-hole for being concerned about that since she doesn't have an eviction record and don't think had problems missing rent at other places she's lived in before, but I do know that she is an alcoholic with a gambling addiction and has filed multiple bankruptcies, one very recently, and is always asking her kids and multiple ex-husbands for money, so I do not want her to get comfortable with me and end up trying to live rent-free. I don't want to have to go the legal route to stop her from that. It sounds like a nightmare. My fiancé is okay with whatever I choose to do. She personally confided in me she too doesn't have confidence that her mom will pay rent regularly and told her mother she thinks it's a bad idea. Her mom is mad at both of us but me specifically. Am I being unreasonable / an a-hole here? Am I the a-hole for refusing to resign a lease, weeks before leaving my pregnant sister homeless? I, 23F, have an Irish twin, 24F. We've been living together for 2 years. She is a single mom of a toddler. When we first moved in together, the apartment was only in her name and she let me live with her. I was finishing dental assisting school and couldn't qualify for an apartment on my own. I still paid half the rent and utilities. After graduating and getting a job, I became an official added roommate to the lease last year. I make a lot of money for my age, so when my sister was struggling to pay her half of the rent when her job cut her hours significantly, it was a no-brainer to start paying more. I could easily afford all the rent, so covering another 25% is nothing. Plus I love her and my niece. My sister has no help whatsoever from the father, so I help her as much as I can. He works under the table so he doesn't get his wages garnished for child support. I have watched her struggle to afford daycare and food for her baby, so I also help her with that. 2 days ago my sister sits me down and tells me she has news. She's pregnant. My jaw dropped. I ask who the dad is and she starts crying. I didn't expect her to say her deadbeat baby daddy. I was shocked and she continued on her explanation. She saw a girl commenting under his posts and she went on her page and saw they had taken pictures at the same place at the same time. The girl also posted him for his birthday weeks later saying, "Happy birthday to my fiancé." She messaged her letting her know he's a deadbeat and got blocked. Then her baby daddy called her saying she's a crazy bee, and that led to them getting a hotel room and they slept with each other, all to prove some point to his fiancé that he's not loyal and she can have him whenever she wants because she sent her proof after they slept together, but the fiancé stayed with him. As she's telling me this story, I just sit there upset. I started asking her if she went to the doctor and how far along is she. She said she did stop by PP and got a scan. She's 9 weeks. We live in a blue state, so termination is legal here. I told my sister that I wasn't going to be signing the lease again unless she got a termination. She looked at me with so much disgust and started crying harder. She called me an evil bee and said I'm a horrible person for making her choose between her baby or having housing. I told her with her hours now she can't afford even half the rent, let alone the daycare she splits between me, our dad, and aunt, so to understand the position she's putting me in, since the responsibility is falling on me. She told our family and they're angry, saying I'm being heartless to even ask her that, and that I shouldn't punish her, and if I should sign at least 6 months, so she can get her stuff together, since 5 weeks isn't a lot of time. I said no, she's ungrateful for all the help I've done, so I'm out. They're saying I'm an a-hole since when I didn't qualify she let me live with her, even though I paid half. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother if he's going to be late, don't show up? I, 31F, and my husband, 29M, got married a week ago. Yay! I spent 2 years planning my wedding and everything was great except for my brother's, 36M, tardiness with every event he came to. For context, my brother and I don't get along. Never have. I only invited him for my parents. Also, I was adopted, so he's not biologically related to me. He's always late, and in the past we've had to tell him an event was 2 hours earlier than it really was so he would be on time. He was late to my high school and college graduation and missed me walk both times. When I was sending invitations, I put an extra note in his that read as follows: I know Mom, Dad, and I would love for you to attend, but if you're going to be late, don't bother showing up. Your girlfriend and her daughter are welcome to attend with or without you. He called me for the first time in years and cussed me out for the note. I held my ground and said I would still appreciate him coming to the wedding, but I'll not allow him to interrupt the ceremony by being late. He then called my parents and yelled at them as well. They said it was my wedding and they stood by my decision. He came to the wedding. But he walked in as I was walking down the aisle and walked past me to his seat. I was horrified and embarrassed and mad. I didn't know exactly what I was feeling in the moment, but it was a mixture of things. After the ceremony, my dad and my biological father, who I've become close with over the years since I met him, both spoke to my brother about how that was inappropriate and rude. My brother didn't care and asked where the bar was. He was forced to leave. Am I the a-hole? Update to the original post. As a lot of people in the comments on the original post said, I told my parents everything, how my brother has told me that I ruined his single child fantasy, how my parents pitted me and that's why they adopted me, how I'll never be a member of the family, etc. I also told them that if I host any events at my home/ranch, I will be hosting Christmas this year since I have the space for the whole family, biological and adopted. My brother will not be invited. I do not want him in my life anymore. The event at my wedding was the final straw. I will be civil if we see each other at family functions that I am not hosting, but I will not be in contact with him anymore unless there is an emergency with our parents. My parents support and understand my position. I told them that this is not me making them choose between us, and this is just me drawing a line in the sand and setting a boundary. I love my parents. They saved me from a horrible situation and gave me the best life I could have hoped for. If not for them, I wouldn't have my beautiful daughter, wouldn't have met my husband, or have my amazing ranch. My ranch hands, Lloyd in particular, said that if my brother ever attempted to come onto the ranch without my knowledge, they would boot him fast. Of course his wife and daughter are welcome anytime. I want to thank everyone for the support and kind comments and helping me see that he does not treat me like family and I should stop trying to extend the olive branch since he keeps burning it. Am I the a-hole for calling my mom when my husband refused to listen to me? I, 26F, recently moved into my first home. I am also 4 months pregnant with our first baby. The pregnancy has been very hard. I have horrible morning sickness. It reached a really bad point where I passed out, hit my head, and my doctor admitted me to the hospital for a week. When I got home, my husband allowed his brother's family to move into 2 of our 3 bedrooms. They were evicted, I don't know why. One room was my office, it was tossed into our room, papers everywhere. The house was a complete wreck. Trash, dirty clothes, used diapers. I started to cry. It was like a light flipped, my husband was no longer the same. My husband told me it wasn't that bad. My reply was, fine, then you should have the house cleaned up before I wake up. Completely exhausted, I fell asleep for 4 hours. I woke up and went to get a drink of water. I couldn't, every glass we own is scattered around the house. They didn't clean a single thing. I passive-aggressively started to pick up the dirty dishes and wash them. The following morning I was trying my best to work when their kids were crying non-stop, banging on the walls and so on. Their mom was in her room for hours ignoring them. When my husband came home, he was upset with me over how I didn't make his brother's wife feel welcome in our home, by helping with their kids when she was tired, then continued to complain how nothing was done in the house while he was at work all day. Yep, the same one he didn't clean. That led to a fight where I told him I am too sick to have company and they need to leave, to which he replied they are his family and he won't kick them out. I started to cry again. I was beyond frustrated, exhausted, I physically couldn't do it anymore. I called my mom asking if I could come stay with her, telling her the whole story in front of my husband, who at this point was completely shocked, angry, also I could tell he wasn't sure what to do. My mom came with my brothers. I have 3 older brothers. My mom, super angry, told my husband, "Since your family can stay, so can we." My mom quickly took charge. I was sent to bed. My brothers started cleaning, complaining loudly at how disgusting my brother-in-law's family is, along with what a horrible husband my husband is for putting me through this while I am sick. I got a text message from my mother-in-law calling me an a-hole for not helping my husband clean up the house and putting my brother-in-law in an uncomfortable position by having my mom boss him around. Edited to add update: when my mother-in-law showed up, she was super angry outside. I could hear shouting but couldn't understand what was said. Once inside, she was shocked. My house looked really bad. My brother-in-law lied to her about what happened. My mother-in-law quickly started to help my mom in the bossing mode. My house is not just cleaned but deep cleaned. My brother-in-law and his kids are now staying with mother-in-law. She didn't know about the eviction. My in-laws helped them financially a couple of months ago. My mother-in-law was not happy about it. Sister-in-law refused to come out of the bedroom. She would scream through the door, but that was about it until her family came to pick her up. Last little bit. I did talk to my husband. He seemed very remorseful. I asked for some space. He is staying at a hotel. He asked to come by and talk to me tonight. My mom and dad are here. Both moms felt like I should have someone here since I am sick. Both moms have set up a meal plan where they trade off who will bring in dinner. It was my mother-in-law's idea. Thank you for all your advice, I truly appreciate it. Talk with husband. Summed up: since it lasted 4 hours, it was a hard talk. He is remorseful. Brother-in-law was only supposed to stay for a couple of nights, then leave. Originally he thought they would be gone before I got home. He said he is tired and emotionally upset himself. When I originally passed out, my husband left to help a friend move. He came home and found me. He said he has no idea how long I was on the floor hurt. He was originally scared I was gone. Since then he has had nightmares, on top of dealing with his family drama. He admitted to dumping his frustration onto me when it's not my fault. He begged me for another chance. The next steps. We are still separated. He plans on staying at my brother's house in his casita. We are going to go to marriage counseling and individual counseling. He asked if he could come when the home health nurse comes each night, and to my doctor's appointments. I agreed to that. Update on brother-in-law. His wife admitted to having an affair. She told him she got married too soon and doesn't want the responsibilities of being a mom anymore. I am not sure what will happen with him and his kids, but I am shocked that she feels this way, especially with her kids. Am I the a-hole for taking my niece to court over a coat? I, 28F, have a niece, 16F. She is my only sister's only child. 2 years ago I married a very wealthy man, 34M, and because of the pandemic, last Christmas was my first with my in-laws. My mother-in-law gifted me a coat that is worth more than $20,000. I saw her wearing it, asked her where she bought it, and she said that it will be my Christmas gift from her. I didn't know how much it was. I knew it was expensive, but I thought maybe $3,000 at most. I was visiting my sister last January when my niece saw it. She Googled the brand and showed me how much it really was. I won't lie, I didn't wear it after that because I was afraid of ruining it. Last week, I wore it while visiting my sister. While I was putting it back on to leave, I felt something go splat on my back, then my niece started cackling and the smell of paint hit me. I was so angry while she was not apologetic at all. Her mom screamed at her and said she was grounded, then she said she will pay for the dry cleaning. While I was in my car, still in shock by the way, I got an alert that my niece posted a reel. It was of her doing a prank on me, and she said, "I'm going to hit my aunt's $20,000 coat with a paint-filled balloon to see how she reacts." I saved it on my phone, sent it to her mom and told her that a week's grounding is not enough. She did not reply, but I saw that my niece took it down. It got less than 5 views by then. The next day I found out my coat cannot be saved, so I called my sister and told her that her daughter has to pay it back. Well, we got into an argument and she said that they will not be paying it, and if I wanted a new one, I should get my husband to buy it for me. I think that they should pay for it, they can afford to. In my opinion, they should sell my niece's car and pay me back my money. We did not reach an agreement, so I told her that I will be suing, and reminded her that I have video evidence that her daughter A. did it on purpose for online clout and B. knew exactly how expensive it was. People in my life are not objective at all. I have some calling me an a-hole, some saying they are the a-holes for not buying me a new one, and some so obsessed with the price of the coat that they are calling me an a-hole for simply owning it and wanting a new one. So am I the a-hole? Edit. Sorry for not making it clearer, but my coat was bought new, just identical to my mother-in-law's. So here is a quick update, since the situation has been resolved. When my husband got home, I told him what happened and showed him the video. He asked if I spoke with my brother-in-law and I said no, all my conversations were with my sister. He said that he will take care of it. Now, a disclaimer, I understand nothing when it comes to insurance claims, and this is what my husband told me / I understood happened. My husband talked with my brother-in-law, told him exactly what happened and showed him the prank video. Then he told him that the coat was insured, we will be filing a claim and submitting the video, and we might have to file charges for the claim. He assured him that we would be dropping the charges, we do not want to send niece to jail. Then he told him that one of two things might happen: after our insurance pays us, they will come after them. If their insurance pays, their premium will skyrocket. If it doesn't, they might sue them, and might get a lien on their house. My brother-in-law asked if there was a way he could pay us without involving insurance. My husband told him that that was what we wanted at first, but that my sister insisted that they will not be paying us back. Apparently, my brother-in-law was not in the know, and he was very angry at what my niece did, and my sister's response. So they came to this solution: my niece's car will be sold, and if it doesn't fetch the whole compensation money, she will have to get a job and pay me the whole check until it is paid off. Also, she is grounded for the rest of the school year. I am thankful for the people who encouraged me to talk with my husband. Am I the a-hole for breaking up my engagement with my fiancée because of her mind games? A bit of backstory: I, 25M, have been in a relationship with my now fiancée, Sarah, 22F, for 3 years. I work in the sales department, I make good money, I support both of us and also pay for her education, but my job is very stressful. She is the daughter of my mother's childhood friend. They always wanted their kids to get married but never pushed us or said anything, but somehow we liked each other and fell in love. After dating for 2 years, I proposed to her 1 year ago. We agreed to get married after her graduation. However, Sarah has a bad habit. She likes to play mind games with me and see my reaction. If she doesn't like the reaction, she gets angry or sad. She asks questions like, "Hey, what if I am unable to have intercourse for the rest of my life and unable to have children? Will you still marry me?" I try to answer emotionally or make her happy, but she always forces me to answer rationally and expects me to be honest. But if I give her a rational answer, she gets mad or sad, saying I only love her because of her body and I only want her for intercourse. I understand that marriage is not about intercourse only. Love, trust, patience, intimacy, everything is needed to make a marriage work, otherwise, it can't last. She makes these fake scenarios, wants me to answer rationally, but gets angry when I do so. She does this once or twice a week. I tried to talk to her, saying, "Babe, please. I hate these questions. I can understand stupid ones like, would you love me if I was a worm? But these questions are serious, and I can't handle these extra dramas. I really love you, but I just want to relax and spend some quality time with you after work." Recently, she crossed a line. One of my co-workers was badly forced by some substance users, and she was in the hospital for a week. The boss gave her PTO for 2 months. She and her husband both broke down emotionally. She is scared to even see a man, and her husband can't tolerate the pain she is in. I took him to a bar a few times, every time he cried because of what happened to her and how he failed to protect her. Their marriage is falling apart. Sarah knew everything about these events. So a few days ago, after I came back from work and was relaxing on the sofa, she came to me and out of nowhere brought up my coworker's story and asked me, "Babe, will you still love me if I get forced and unable to come close to you for years? Will you still love me?" My answer was yes, I will be there for you. But she kept pushing, like what if they made me pregnant? What if they injured my private parts? I was getting more and more annoyed and angry because being forced is one of the biggest tragedies that can happen to a woman. The horror and terror of it are impossible for a person to imagine. For her partner, it is also horrifying and extremely depressing to see her in such a vulnerable state. But she somehow created this scenario and wants me to give her a rational answer, but I can't because I never experienced such horror, and I never want to be in that position, and I honestly don't know how I would handle the situation. But she kept testing my patience. After that, I said I was done. I took off my engagement ring and said I am done with you. I work 12 hours a day, but I still try to find time to do something for you. I try to buy you flowers, take you out on dates, try to buy everything you ask, cook for you often, and do everything I can to make you happy. All I asked for in return is peace and positive energy. I can't take these games anymore, and I can't apologize every time for some fake scenario you created in your head. I can't handle that extra stress. I walked out of my house. She kept screaming at me and crying loudly. I am currently staying at my mom's home. She kept calling me and texting me. I didn't answer. I honestly can't handle her right now. I am tired, stressed, angry, and depressed all at once. Am I the a-hole for breaking up the engagement for this reason? Edit. Thank you guys for all of your kind words. I will keep it in mind moving forward. There will be a family meeting with her family tomorrow. She won't be there, but I want to talk to her family. Her mom and her father already talked to me and apologized and reassured me they will support my decision if I decided to break up. Both of our family have almost 30 years of friendship, and our moms are friends since their teenage years, and they won't let that break because of her. I will update you guys about the meeting. Edit 2. Whoa, this blew up. Sorry, I should have added more context and backstory. I wrote this while I was sad and depressed, so I missed a few things. We started our relationship when she was 18 and I was 21. But we knew each other since birth. We were good friends. We played together. I had a crush on her when she was 16, but since she was 3 years younger than me at that time I didn't tell her. But at her 18th birthday I confessed and she said yes. We moved in together after her 20th birthday. And this drama started after that. Am I the a-hole for making my girlfriend cry after letting her know just how hurtful it is to make fun of strangers in public? I've, 36M, always hated when I'm out in public with people who pick on or make fun of strangers. So, yesterday was both Thanksgiving and my girlfriend's birthday, 41F. Her mom, her best friend from childhood, 41M, and his boyfriend were also in attendance. This was in a restaurant, no mess, no stress, just pay and eat. An older lady, probably late 60s, was standing near our table waiting for her family to catch up. She was a standard-issue older lady, except she had, intentionally, dyed blue hair. Well, my girlfriend said way too loudly, "OMG. Look at that 80-year-old woman's blue hair, ha ha ha." Her best friend chimed in with the same critique. They kept saying things like, "Why do old women do that? Are they trying to be young?" and impersonating her. "This will make my granddaughter think I'm cool," and laughing and so on. The woman could hear every word. The first mention of the word blue hair and I saw her eyes dart straight towards us. The best friend said to my girlfriend, "It's you when you're in your 80s, ha ha ha," and my girlfriend said, "Oh Lord no, ha ha ha." After a minute or two, she had enough and walked outside to wait for her party, looking very sad in my opinion. When we got back home, after a few hours, my girlfriend said, "Geez, how about that woman with the blue hair, right?" Well, told her how I thought they were being mean. How that woman heard everything and how her actions may have impacted this poor woman. Now, there is absolutely a chance the woman didn't care and thought, "F you." We'll never know. My girlfriend and her best friend were viciously bullied as kids. My girlfriend is an amazing, sweet, caring and thoughtful person. She never intended for that woman to hear. But her and her best friend have been people watching like this since they were kids. When I let her know that yes, that woman absolutely was listening and seemed quite hurt, my girlfriend just broke down. Bawling, crying, snot bubbles, shaking and all. She said she felt so bad and knew what it was like to be bullied. She immediately owned up and said she just wished she could apologize. I felt terrible now, of course, and backpedaled and just focused on this being a teachable moment, and that nobody is perfect and she's still of course a good, sweet person. Just a tipsy error in judgment. But she was locked in on guilt. She had to take a sedative to stop crying and sleep. I held her for hours while she cried and mumbled, "I'm so sorry." It really brought her back to being bullied as a kid, and how she felt when it happened. But those bullies said it loud, directly, peppered with loser, freak, etc. We all know how bullies do. My girlfriend is not a bully. She just never thought about the consequences of bad talking before. She is a good person. So is her best friend. Anyways, Reddit. Am I the a-hole? It was her birthday and she cried herself to sleep. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife the lock on my daughter's door does not get removed till my brother-in-law and his daughters are out of our house? My brother-in-law, Sammy, lost his home shortly after his divorce 10 months ago. He moved in with us and brought his twin daughters, Olivia and Sloane 18, with him a couple of months ago. His sister, my wife, and I have one daughter, Zoe 16, and she and her cousins aren't close but get along fine. Olivia and Sloane have no respect for Zoe's privacy, none. They used to walk into her room and take everything they get their hands on: makeup, phone accessories, clothes, school laptop, etc. Zoe complained a lot and I've already asked the girls to respect Zoe's privacy and stop taking things. My wife and Sammy saw no issue with this. After all, they're girls and this is typical teenage girls' behavior. I completely disagreed. Last straw was when Zoe bought a $60 MAC makeup kit that looks like a paint set, that she saved up for over a month, and one of the girls, Sloane, took it without permission, and ruined it by mixing shades together while using it. Don't know much about makeup, but that's what Zoe said when she found the kit on her bed, and was crying. I told my wife and she said she'd ask Sloane to apologize, but I got Zoe a lock after I found she was moving valuable belongings out the house because of this incident. Sammy and his daughters saw the lock and weren't happy. The girls were extremely upset. Sammy asked about it and I straight up told him. He said, "My daughters aren't thieves. It's normal that girls of the same age borrow each other's stuff." He said Zoe could easily get another makeup kit for $15 from Walmart, and shouldn't even be buying expensive adult makeup in the first place, and suggested my wife take care of this defect in Zoe's personality, trying to appear older than she is. He accused me of being overprotective and babying Zoe with this level of enablement. I told him this is between me and my wife, but she shamed me for putting a lock on Zoe's door for her cousins to see, and preventing them from spending time with her, saying I was supposed to treat them like daughters, then demanded I remove it, but I said this lock does not get removed till her brother and his daughters are out of our house. She got mad I was implying we kick them out and said her family'll hate me for this. So I reminded her that I let Sammy and his family move in, which something her own family refused to do, so she should start with shaming/blaming them for not taking their own son and nieces/granddaughters in. If it wasn't for her family's unwillingness to help, we wouldn't be dealing with this much disturbance at home. Everyone's been giving me and Zoe the silent treatment and my wife is very much upset over this. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to the family dinner? Me, 30F, and my twin brother live in different cities. Before last Christmas, I was speaking about gifts with my brother and he was unsure what gift to get his wife, 30F. During this conversation, I mentioned that I got her a book she really liked in a library when they came over on a previous visit. He asked if he could pay me to have the gift for her, and I would get her something else. I agreed. But since the next day I was traveling to their house for the Christmas dinner, I got her a last-minute bath set. During the gift exchange, she absolutely loved the book for my brother, and was polite about my gift. However, later during the evening she mentioned how she understands when money is tight, and that I could get more thoughtful gifts next time. It did not feel good. Then we traveled back home and never spoke about this again. Today, I am speaking to my brother on the phone and discuss about Christmas gifts. I tell him that for my sister-in-law, my gift is a wool sweater that she specifically mentioned she liked a while ago. My brother asks again that I let him give this gift to her, and that I get her something else. I said no, especially after last year. He had no idea that my sister-in-law made any comments, and said that maybe I interpreted wrongly. Then he said he actually remembers my sister-in-law speaking privately with him afterwards, and saying that gifts are a reflection of love, and that I clearly don't put much thought in her gifts. I asked him to just get her something else because I put thought in my gift, and have no idea what to get her otherwise. After some back and forth I agreed to let him have the gift, but I told him I am not coming for dinner this year, as I don't want to hear any more comments. He said that I am a baby, and to think about it. I am quite upset that he does this thing of asking for my gift. I also don't put that much pressure on myself when it comes to gifts, but I make an exception with my sister-in-law, as she often discusses the gifts she normally gets. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to attend dinner this year? Edit and update. First of all, thank you to everyone who took the time to read and give their opinions. I would like to address some things. Indeed, I am somewhat of a pushover, especially when it comes to my brother. Partly this is because he was always the sicker twin, and I believe needed more attention growing up. While I believe our relationship as siblings was normal, he definitely was the one who got more slack, while I was the one who has to understand that my brother needs more attention than me. To the comments saying that I am a spineless idiot for letting him have the gift again, we have rather different ways of convincing people. I am the kind of person who takes even a soft no as a no, while he is the kind that keeps pushing, begging, and asking until he gets what he wants. When he asked for the gift the second time, I think I was very firm in my answer, but then there was a good 15 minutes of back and forth where he would not stop asking. I don't consider myself a doormat and I normally stick up for myself, but when people beg aggressively, especially about a gift like in this case, I give in. Since people asked what gift I got, we gather at their house every year and everyone brings dishes to serve together, but they don't give gifts because they provide the house for everyone to gather at. Even though it seems that the dinner issue was not very much commented here, I would still like to say that I told him I am not coming to dinner because I was upset during the conversation, but I don't think I mean it. Now for the update. My brother called me and asked if I could send the sweater by courier to him so that he can wrap it up. I took the general advice here and told him that I am not giving him the gift, and he should take this time until Christmas to prepare a thoughtful gift for his wife. He said I am being ridiculous for taking her comments to heart, and that I can get her anything and she will be happy. It feels physically heavy to keep saying no to him, and my voice was shaking in the phone call and I was ready to cry, but I said no, and to stop asking me anymore. Otherwise I will tell my sister-in-law about the way he gets her gifts. He did not appreciate what I said, to the point of him saying I am a selfish person for refusing to help my brother when he is in need. Lastly, he said he still wants me to come over for dinner even though I am like this. We ended the phone call and then he texted me asking for gift ideas for his wife. Am I the a-hole for asking my son to bring my 6-week-old granddaughter to visit me, without his fiancée? Throwaway. 51F, my son is 29 and he and his fiancée Jen have a 6-week-old daughter Lily. She also has a 7-year-old son that is not my son's child, but I still consider him my grandbaby. I used to get along really well with Jen, and told everyone she was like a daughter to me, but when she got pregnant, she started acting weird toward me. Like I asked to be in the room for delivery and she said a clipped no, despite letting her 7-year-old son's dad's mom in the room for his delivery. No big deal, it's her choice, but when I went to visit in the hospital afterwards she acted really put off that I was there. I figured she was just tired and left after 20 minutes to give her space, but then it continued. I have stopped in to see everyone about 5 times since she had the baby, and every single time that I walk in, she gets really quiet. Whenever I'm holding the baby, she is hovering. She keeps snapping at me over small things, like how I'm holding the baby, had her on her belly on my arm or sideways across my knees on her belly, because she's crying, obviously she doesn't like that, so stop. Or snapping at me for things I say to the baby, like when she starts fussing, I said, "You won't get your own way with me, you can't play me like that," in a baby voice, trying to calm her. And she goes, "She's 4 weeks old, how exactly is she playing you?" Then she got livid and actually kicked me out of the house one time, because she picked up the baby for making the smallest of noises, and I told her the baby was going to get used to being held all the time if she kept doing that, and she said, "Well, it's a good thing she's my child, and I don't have to listen to your crying it out bullshit." Well, I went there on Thanksgiving and apparently it was her mother's first time meeting the baby, and of course the baby was all smiles and loved her grandma. But when I got the chance to hold the baby, she immediately started screaming, and was promptly taken from me. I feel very slighted. I asked my son if he would bring the baby to visit me without his fiancée, because I feel like his fiancée's attitude toward me is the reason why the baby screams every time I hold her. I definitely think she's picking up on the hostility. I don't know why she even dislikes me now, but asking her currently would be pointless. He told me he absolutely would not bring his daughter to my place without her mother, because he wouldn't do that to his fiancée, who has never been away from the baby thus far. I told him they were purposely ruining my chance at a relationship with my granddaughter, and he said that wasn't true and that I need to stop pushing my old-fashioned beliefs, which is the first time I've heard of this. Am I the a-hole for expecting him to bring my granddaughter to me without her mom, so I can have a relationship with her? Am I the a-hole for screaming and swearing at my wife while in extreme pain? Last night my wife, 28F, and I, 28M, were getting ready for bed, staying at my mother-in-law for the holiday. I was cleaning out my ears, when I accidentally stabbed myself in the eardrum with the Q-tip. It was extremely painful, 10 on the pain scale. I fell to my knees, freaked out, and started screaming at the top of my lungs and swearing. Most of it was just generic cursing at the pain, but at one point, as my wife is yelling at me, "What? What happened?" I did scream at her, "Shut the F up." After a minute or so I calmed down as the pain receded. The first thing my wife did was tell me that I was being dramatic and that my reaction was unnecessary. I was pretty dumbfounded as I stood there with my ear still throbbing a bit. "I'm fine by the way," and we fought for a while as I got defensive about my reaction, that I'd really not had control over it, and that I had really been in a huge amount of pain. We threw some insults, but I did apologize for how disturbing my reaction was. We calmed down and she offered to check my ear, where she sheepishly admitted she saw a little blood. Again, "I'm fine," and apologized for diminishing my reaction. The next morning, my mother-in-law came home from running an errand and pretty much immediately tore into me for scaring and freaking her out last night and that it was unacceptable. Didn't even offer me the chance to explain or apologize, just laid into me, before disappearing into her room. I sat down with my wife, who apologized for her mother and said that was unacceptable, but then she told me that my reaction the previous night was overblown and unhealthy. I was stunned, because it felt like she had completely reversed herself from the previous night. I had to leave the house to go run an errand while I calmed down. When I got back, we talked about it and she was adamant that though she believed me about how much pain I was in, that my reaction was not normal and unhealthy and that I should have had more control over myself. My stance is that because of the extreme pain I was in, my reaction, even though it was very unnerving for her, which I acknowledge and apologized for, was completely involuntary and I couldn't have controlled it even if I tried. Does my reaction make me the a-hole? Am I the a-hole? My husband recorded a video of me falling down to post it online, so I haven't spoken to him in 3 weeks. So, I want to start by saying that English isn't my first language, so if there are any mistakes, that's the reason why, and I also want to know if I'm overreacting. Okay, as the title says, this happened 3 weeks ago. On Monday, as usual, I, 29M, woke up at 6 a.m. to go to work. I was taking a shower and everything was okay, but as I stepped out of the shower I fell down, I touched the floor and it was greasy. So my husband, 32M, came out of our room with a camera recording everything and laughing out loud. I wanted an explanation and he said it was just a prank. He had spread butter on the floor for me to fall down, because his brilliant friends thought it was a great idea to play pranks on their spouses, to post them online and go viral. One of the morons even pushed his pregnant wife into a pool. Thus, I was speechless. I was kind of in shock. I felt insecure and vulnerable. I was thinking, come on, you are supposed to have my back, not to make fun of me, so I didn't argue. I didn't say anything, I just left for work. He even told me, before leaving, "You might be angry now, but I promise I will compensate you tonight." Throughout the day, I started analyzing the event and I found it childish, disrespectful and blatantly stupid. I mean, thank heavens, nothing terrible happened, but what if I hadn't grabbed the curtain and my head or neck had hit on the bathtub? I could be gone, and I'm not joking. A severe head injury can be life-threatening. I would never risk his integrity like that, because he is my husband. I respect him and I love him. He is usually very wise and smart, but this time he acted like a teenager. So that day I didn't feel like seeing my husband. Then I went to my dad's to cool down, but I haven't got home in 3 weeks because I'm still angry at him. I asked my dad to go and pack my things. At first my husband didn't want to let him in, but he ended up allowing it. I haven't even answered his calls and I'm seriously reconsidering our relationship. We've been married for 3 years, he is caring and loving and had never done something as irresponsible and stupid like this. He has been bombarding my phone with apology messages and begging me to be back, but I don't know, to be honest I don't look at him the same way I did before. So now, everyone, but my dad, is telling me that it's time to forgive, because he didn't do it with the intention of hurting me and perhaps he didn't see beyond consequences, and didn't think it could be life-threatening. That I'm overreacting because it's just a prank, but this isn't some 6-year-old child who doesn't see beyond the prank. This guy is a doctor, he knows what a head injury could mean. So I don't know guys, am I really overreacting? Because everyone seems to agree that I am, even my mom does. Yeah, I know that he might not have done it hoping I would be harmed, but it is so disrespectful and there was a chance it could be life-threatening. A friend of mine recommended this space to get some unbiased opinions. Am I the a-hole for suing my brother for stealing from me? My brother Dan has always been a thief, couldn't leave my money anywhere he could access it, or he would 100% definitely steal it. For our entire childhoods together, Dan regularly stole our father's cash and credit card as young as, 7 years old. He never stopped. Our parents are certainly annoyed by his stealing, when they are the victims of it, but ultimately, Dan is their beloved little baby who can't do anything wrong and they always give him a pass, no matter how many thousands of dollars he steals. I left home at 18 and had very minimal contact with Dan for the past 9 years. I'm 27 now, and Dan, who has been living with our parents since I left home, recently showed up at my doorstep saying he's intending to move out on his own, but he needs somewhere to live until he finds his own place. Reticently, I said okay, but made it very clear that I would not tolerate any thievery. Dan had the gall to act all shocked and offended that I would even dare imply that his innocent self would ever steal anything. Okay, whatever, I have security cameras. Of course, Dan robbed me blind on day 1 of him being in my house while I was at work. Came home to all my consoles and video games gone, my living room TV gone, half of my electronics gone. Only reason my computer and spare TV are still there, is because they were in my locked home office. Dan was gone too, of course. I called the police, reported the robbery and provided them with security footage of Dan doing it. The police said it's a civil issue and they can't help me, so I contacted a lawyer, who thinks it's a felony and if we bring the case, my brother will be prosecuted, which could land him in prison. I agreed to go forward with that. I called my mother after that, and I told her the truth, that I am going to sue Dan and he will most likely end up in prison, so she should communicate with him the message that if he wants attenuating circumstances, he still has time to return my TV, my PS5, etc. Mom immediately freaks out and demands that I stop the proceedings because my poor little innocent baby of a brother could actually go to prison. Could actually face consequences. We must absolutely stop this from happening. I told her no, the lawsuit is moving forward regardless, and it's up to Dan to decide how long his prison stay will be in the brief time between then and when he gets arrested. An hour later, Dan is calling me, panicked, and he screams at me, "How dare you do this to me?" He refuses to return anything, but he willingly admitted to all crimes in his tirade screaming at me, and since I have an app that records all calls, I now have even more evidence for the case. Later, our father calls, same spiel, "How dare I attack my poor little brother like that?" Then an uncle, a couple cousins, Dan's best friend, all come to me and all agree that I am a bad person and that Dan just took some stuff, which is what siblings do to each other, and that I am wealthy and I can afford all of it, while Dan is broke, so really I should have just given it all to him without him needing to rob me. That's where I'm at. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my 28F ex-best friend that she's lying about carrying my boyfriend's child and saying she's delusional? Hi. English isn't the best for me, it's not my first language, so please bear with me. This is also a new account, my friends know my main account. To make things easier, we'll give everyone fake names. My boyfriend, Jake, 28M, ex-best friend, Sarah, 28F. For starters, Jake and I are still together. He never cheated on me, instead, my deluded ex-best friend Sarah is convinced she's carrying his child. Jake and I have been together for 3 years now, but have known each other since college. Sarah and I have known each other since grade school, went through high school together and even got into the same college, which is where we both met Jake. Sarah liked Jake first, but he never showed any interest in her, but he was still civil and even developed a friendship with the both of us. He introduced us to his friend group and we all got along. Fast forward a few years and Jake confessed that he's attracted to me and that he had liked me for a while. He asked me out on a date, and I accepted. We began dating a few weeks after that. I never told Sarah about it yet, I was afraid she'd flip out and possibly end our friendship. Only when him and I began dating, we decided to tell Sarah and the rest of our friend group. Obviously, she wasn't too pleased, but she told me she was okay with it. Oddly enough, she kept trying to make a move on Jake, despite him and I being in a relationship. He'd always reject her advances, decline her random calls in the middle of the night and reject her offers to go out somewhere without me. Both Jake and I found this weird, and when I confronted her, she told me it was because she got closer to Jake and wants to be best friends with him just like her and I were. I tried to ignore all the red flags, but last week was number 491 for me. Sarah sent me a photo of 2 positive pregnancy tests around 8 p.m. I congratulated her and asked her who the father was because she isn't in a relationship. She told me the baby belonged to Jake. I paused and felt my heart skip a beat, but remembered that Jake and I hadn't seen Sarah in 2 months since we were visiting his family in another state and also preparing to move to his home state. I told her that it would be impossible for that to happen and explained why, but she was adamant that the child was his. I asked for proof, and after 10 minutes, she came back with screenshots of texts that were allegedly between my boyfriend and her talking about them having an affair and sleeping with one another. I almost laughed looking at the pictures. Despite her intelligence when it comes to graphic design, she forgot to change the phone number to make it more believable. I messaged her and told her that I was tired of her antics, and that I'd be blocking her soon after telling Jake about what she did. She said it was true and even told me that I'm being a bad girlfriend for not pleasing my man enough. I got pissed and told her that she needed psychological help for lying about something like this, and that she's delusional and had an unhealthy obsession with a man in a relationship. She told our mutual friends, and eventually Jake found out. Jake is just as disturbed and is 100% on my side. However, our friends are torn. Some of them took my side, but others say that I was an a-hole and they be for taking my cheating boyfriend's side, and for calling Sarah crazy and delusional in her time of need. I've thought about it over the past few days and still think I am not in the wrong. However, I spoke to my sister and she feels as if I shouldn't have said what I said to Sarah. So, am I in the wrong here? Edit. For people who are asking why I didn't just prove to everyone else that Sarah is clearly lying by showing them the screenshots. First of all, Sarah chose to involve our friends into this. Jake and I might lose a few friends, but I do not mind. I'm not a fan of big friend groups and neither is Jake. Nothing has gotten too out of hand. If I feel things have gone overboard aside from her pregnancy claim, I'll take initiative and tell the truth to everyone. But not before we request a DNA test and paternity test from Sarah. Some comments suggested that I do suggest a paternity test and see her reaction to truly know if she is lying or not. I know she is. If she chooses to make up a whole story about how it happened, she'd have to make it believable and Oscar-worthy because I have way too much evidence, Instagram posts, texts, her screenshots and photo timestamps to disprove all her claims. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out for trying to break me up with my boyfriend because she likes him? I, 26M, and my boyfriend, 28M, have been dating for 6 years and are living together. My sister, 22F, and mine relationship wasn't the best when we were younger, mostly because our parents treated her like the golden child because they always wanted a girl, which already made me distant with them all a bit because of that reason alone. As we got older, my sister did act more like a mature person, but didn't fully grow out of her golden child act. My sister moved in 2 months ago because her boyfriend broke up with her and kicked her out, though she refuses to tell me or anyone of our family the reason why they broke up. Since they seemed like a good couple, it was a little surprising. In the first 2 weeks, things went fine. She was decent, helped around and didn't involve herself too much in my and my boyfriend's life or anything. But she seemed to be trying to get closer to my boyfriend as time went by. She kept trying to hug him, touch his arms, back, ask him to help zip up her dress when she goes out, which he obviously says no to, and would often interrupt me talking with him to put herself in the conversation. Of course, my boyfriend didn't like any of it, and whenever she did anything that made him uncomfortable, he'd tell me, and I've told her many times to stop and how she makes him uncomfortable. She would often say that she didn't mean to, how she just wanted a closer look at his tattoos on his arms and a bunch of other excuses. A week ago, my boyfriend came to me and told me how my sister said that I've been cheating on him, and he showed me his phone with messages of a bunch of stuff my sister texted him, and how I was in a club or something with another guy. He didn't really believe her since I'm very introverted and never even went to a club or bar my entire life, and he knows that, so me flirting with some other dude out is just a very dumb lie to come up with. So I waited her to come back, and when she did, I told her that we needed to talk. When I asked her why she would lie about me cheating, she immediately got defensive and started yelling at me, saying how I'm no good for my boyfriend, that I'm ruining her time here in my house, how she's going through a tough time with her own breakup, etc. My boyfriend did jump in and told her to shut up and to not shout. My sister suddenly started crying her eyes out like a child and started throwing a tantrum saying, "It should be me. You're supposed to be with me, not that F-slur, I am better than him, why can't you two just break up already," and a bunch of other hurtful things towards me. My boyfriend didn't even give her time to finish her tantrum before he yelled at her to grab her stuff and leave. She didn't listen to him and instead laid on the floor and continued yelling and crying. My boyfriend went towards where my sister's room was, and packed her stuff in trash bags, before throwing them all out while I was trying to get my sister off the floor. My sister shouted at him to stop and got up from the floor to go and try to get her stuff back inside. I got fed up with her and shoved her out while my boyfriend was throwing her stuff out. My sister did try to punch me while I shoved her, but it didn't hit me, and she kept shouting at me how I'm disgusting, ruining her life, and a bunch of F-slurs on the way. She did finally leave us alone after my boyfriend said he'd call the cops if she says another word to me. Now my phone keeps blowing up with calls and messages from my family and my sister's friends, how I'm a terrible person and that I shouldn't have kicked her out because she's going through a breakup and didn't know what she was doing or whatever. My parents tried coming to my house today to try and talk to me, to get my sister to live with me and my boyfriend again, but since my boyfriend already hates their guts, they got kicked out within a minute before they could even try to justify my sister's actions. I don't think I did anything bad, but the amount of backlash and angry messages I'm getting is messing me up, so I'm gonna need some advice on how to continue from here, because I'm starting to doubt my decision. So, am I the a-hole? Update. Turns out a few of you guys were right, and she gave most of the family a made-up story. She told the rest of the family, except my parents since they knew the real story from the start, and her friends, that when she moved in I was a complete jerk. I made her do all the chores, cook every day, yelled at her all the time and tried to make her feel insecure about herself, but she didn't because girl boss and whatnot. She also said how my boyfriend was not happy in his relationship with me and basically made me look like some demon. I was able to slap some sense into a few of the more open-minded people with the help of my boyfriend to give them the real story. Most of them didn't even apologize and just stopped bothering me. I was able to get in contact with one of my sister's friends to ask about my sister's reason of the whole breakup thing. Turns out the reason my sister and her ex broke up was because she was supposed to take care of her ex's dog, but instead sold the dog, because she didn't want to take care of it while he was away. She wasn't even sad that they broke up. She was upset because she wasn't allowed to keep the house and all the stuff inside that wasn't even hers. I don't know why she even thought that she'd be allowed to keep it after selling the guy's dog. The texts from my family did calm down for a few, but my parents and sister continue spamming me with trash talk. It got to a point that the day after I made the first post, I got a threat letter of my sister, saying how I must break up with my boyfriend or else she'll destroy my reputation and everything I have, and also decided to be petty and write how she'll stab me. Unfortunately for her, when the letter came in I was out grocery shopping, but my boyfriend was home with his family who was over for dinner, and angering a family of 2 parents who have 9 kids, 5 adults and 4 teenagers, is not a pretty sight as my boyfriend described it. My boyfriend's mother called my mother and started asking about the letter my sister sent. My mother denied it and said that my sister didn't do anything of that sort. My boyfriend's mother wanted to say more, but my mother hanged up on her. After we cooked and had dinner, my boyfriend's father suggested that they'd stay over in case my parents or sister tried to disturb us again. My boyfriend and I agreed to this, and we set up a few spare rooms for them since we do have a pretty big house. I did call the police for the threat letter and they said they'd look into it. After that we simply went to bed. The next day we did hear loud banging on the front door, with my sister screaming to be let in. One of my boyfriend's brothers opened the door and my mom and dad walked right in and demanded of me to talk to them alone. But my boyfriend's parents cut them off and tried telling them that my sister is out of line and they needed to respect that they crossed many boundaries. Both my parents and my boyfriend's parents then got into a heated argument. And what did my sister do? She tried to get closer to my boyfriend while the argument was occurring. My boyfriend then started shouting at her, calling her a psychopath and that she's annoying. My parents then started yelling at my boyfriend that it's no big deal and that's just how girls act around their crush. I did get fed up and told my parents and sister that they need to leave before I call the police. They refused and my mom seriously said, "You should be a good brother and make your sister happy. Let her go on one date with your boyfriend and we'll leave. How else will they know if they click or not? You're basically ruining your sister's love life by being so selfish." My boyfriend and his siblings all immediately shut her up and torn her up for saying such stuff. My sister then started crying and tried to go to my boyfriend for a hug. One of my boyfriend's sisters slapped her and said how she should be ashamed of herself for trying to get to a gay-taken man. My sister seemed to have lost it and tried to lunge at me while screaming how much she hates me. She shoved me onto the ground and grabbed a knife from her pocket and stabbed me. It was obviously she tried to go for my throat but instead went to my shoulder. My boyfriend yanked her off me and he and his siblings started to gang up on her. My boyfriend's mother helped me up, and treated the stab wound with whatever we had, as it was bleeding quite a lot and pretty deep and she's a nurse. My boyfriend's father called the police. My parents tried to take my sister and leave, but my boyfriend and his siblings kept them in place until the police arrived. Once the police got there, my parents and sister got arrested and I got sent to the hospital because the bleeding wouldn't stop. I got a few stitches on my shoulder now and it's a bit difficult to move with my left arm. When my sister got questioned by the police, she kept shouting threats and that she meant to slice my throat, not my shoulder, WTF. For some reason she also kept crying out my boyfriend's name, as if he's gonna defend her or help her. My sister got sent to jail and my parents got a restraining order. But due to their actions, my little brother, 8, got taken out of their house and put into my care. 3 of my boyfriend's siblings are currently staying over, because they think my parents might come back and try to take my little brother away or hurt me. For 2 days it has been peaceful. Maybe some other family members will come by or my sister's friends will try something, but right now I'm safe. My boyfriend, his sister and my little brother are currently hanging out playing some video games. He's planning on taking my brother to a zoo, since my little brother loves animals and never went to one. I'll update if anything else will happen. Am I the a-hole for admitting I regret having children? My wife and I are both 42 and in marriage counseling after our marriage basically went bad after having kids, 6 and 4-year-old twins. A lot of issues and disagreements have come up in our marriage that have driven us apart, and I have been working through my resentment that going back for one more baby resulted in twins, including one which we are pretty sure has ADHD and ODD and is a nightmare child. Our counselor asked me if I would have children, if I had to do it all over again, and I said honestly, no. I love my kids and would take a bullet for them, but if I had the chance to go back to 24 when I finished grad school, and could do my life over again, I wouldn't choose fatherhood. It is not the fulfilling experience everyone claims, and while I love my children, the sacrifices are not worth it to me. I had a much happier life before having children, and have gone from someone who loved life to someone who just makes it through the day, working a job he hates to provide for the wife and kids, while silently wishing this wasn't my life. My wife is furious and taking it the wrong way and even told our 6-year-old daddy wishes you were never born, which makes me livid. You don't tell the kid that. Yes, I wish I never had kids, but I do love them, would never hurt them or want to upset them. And I didn't say it to or in front of my kids, and I never ever will. I said it in marriage counseling, what should be a safe space to talk about feelings. It has become a huge fight. Our marriage is not going to be saved now, and I know she will try and use this against me in divorce court, to try and get sole custody and take everything and lie to the kids, who I do love and still want to be a dad to them. She is incapable of understanding that you can love your kids, but also feel that parenthood wasn't the best choice for you. Am I the a-hole for saying it though? Edit. Okay, this blew up and there is no way I can reply to everyone's questions. But to address a couple, I have 3 kids, not 4. One child is 6, 2 are 4. English is not my first language and I forgot the comma, and even so that sentence would have been much clearer in my native language. When I say I resent having twins, I am not saying it is my wife's fault. But 3 children is more than we budgeted or bargained for, and I need to pick up a lot overtime that I would not have had to pick up if we just had 2 kids, and that is what I resent, that and the child with ADHD/ODD. My life is basically work and dealing with my kids. And do you know what ODD is? This child always refuses to do what is asked, gets angry and throws a tantrum when asked to do something he doesn't want to do, hits and kicks others, deliberately annoys and hurts others, is extremely spiteful, screams and kicks me constantly. Always. All day. Every day. It's exhausting and it is hell. Yeah. I wouldn't have him again. Most people wouldn't if they had to raise him. Just because I wouldn't do this over again doesn't mean I'm not committed to being a good dad and being present in their lives. I just would not do it over again if I could redo my adult life. My first kid was not born at 24, I just said that because if I could do my whole post-university life differently, I would change some other things too, mainly career, and to be honest, after all this, I regret marrying my wife, which is why I said it that way. Regarding calling the ADHD/ODD twin a nightmare, go Google what that means. It is very difficult to manage and he has even been kicked out of 3 daycare places because they could not handle him and my parents even refused to babysit him. We never get a break from home, and no one can handle time. Am I the a-hole for not letting this intrusive girl vlog next to me on the plane? I 21M have been flying all my life without issues, and finally ran into a bad experience. This situation happened on a flight departing from the UK, not American, if that matters. I feel like it might have been cursed from the start because I had to grab a flight last minute due to a family emergency. By the time I booked there were no aisle seats available, but I found a row of 3 seats with extra legroom and selected a window seat. Seated next to me was a man around my age or maybe older, and in the aisle was a woman, 22F. The woman was very talkative. The man was very quiet. I had no intention of getting friendly. I think I was sad. Or worried. But it might have translated into a-hole. She initiated and we all made brief introductions. I had the family emergency on my mind so I switched my headphones on and closed my eyes following our intros, and waited for us to take off. I heard the other 2 talking and felt them shuffling around. 22F switched seats with the guy. Now he was in the aisle and she was in the middle. Some time later, I heard her talking. She was making a video. I opened my eyes and she had the camera on me in that moment. It was brief so I let it slide, gestured a little acknowledgement, not saying anything because at that time I had no idea how annoying it was about to get. She eventually turned the camera off and started asking me a lot of questions I wasn't in the mood for. I understand she was feeling chatty, and maybe I wasn't in the right headspace for someone like that. She was headed on an adventure. I wasn't. I answered a few questions briefly and then I told her to talk to the other guy because I want to sleep. She told me she does not want to talk to him, she wants to talk to me. At this point I felt like she wasn't taking a hint so I told her bluntly. I don't want to talk. This worked, kind of. I thought she had stopped bothering me for a while, because it was silent, but when I opened my eyes I saw that she was filming me. I raised a brow and she giggled. I told her I need her to stop. She laughed and told me I had said I don't want to talk but I didn't say I don't want to be filmed. I replied to that with, now you know. She brushed this off, switched to filming herself, and said to her camera, he is so cranky. She stopped filming me though, and finally settled in, watching something on her iPad. I fell asleep. When I woke up, the flight attendant was offering refreshments and I requested one. The girl wasn't there, I guess she went to the bathroom. The guy in the aisle seat told me in our language that while I was asleep, she was not only filming me, but also trying to do stupid things like pretending to touch my face, waving her hand in front of my eyes, hovering her hand over mine to compare size, put her shoe next to mine, etc. And took pictures he's not sure I'm in. He said he told her to stop, and she did, but he has also been sleeping and isn't sure if she did things while he slept. He asked me not to bring it up because he didn't want to get in the middle. I waited for her to get back and then immediately confronted her. She turned to the other guy angrily. Meanwhile, he looked uncomfortable. English was his second language. Before she could go off on him, I stopped her. I requested she delete whatever footage she took of me. She doesn't have my consent. She stated she doesn't need it. I gave her an "Are you serious" look and she switched to pleading. I was so tired of it at this point, so I gave her a warning: no more filming, or I'm complaining to flight staff. She stopped filming me after this. Mid-flight, she fell asleep, kept resting her head against me, which I kept pushing away, only for her to kind of frustratedly put her head back. The entitlement of this girl. I got a pillow and shoved it between and tried to get some sleep as well. When we were approaching the landing, she asked me to take her camera and film the descent. Not only that, she asked me to also give commentary. I told her I'm not doing any of that. This made her start reaching over me to film the window. The flight attendant doing her checks and I made eye contact. She told the girl off. The girl straightened up and stayed quiet. Some time passed, and I felt a little bad she wasn't going to get her stupid shot for her stupid vlog, so I offered to let her switch seats with me. She refused. She said it was too late. She said I ruined her video. It was her first time visiting this country and I was starting her off on the wrong vibe. She also said I was single-handedly giving her a bad impression of men in my country. I was being a bad ambassador for the brand, her exact words. This made me laugh. She asked me, aren't I going to make it up to her? I said I didn't know I owed her that. I'll get her luggage down from the overhead. She said it wasn't good enough. I disengaged. I heard her asking the other guy if men in his country are like me. She was clearly baiting him. The poor guy didn't know what to say. He said something like, "Don't worry, people have good manners." This made me remark to him in our language, "You should tell her to work on her manners." She spun around and asked me what I said. I told her I said if he wants, he can help you with your luggage. Anyway, I know various content creators exist because I see their videos on TikTok etc., but I had never encountered one in real life until I met this person. Am I the a-hole for not being a good sport, or would you find this a-hole behavior? In hindsight, I admit I was in a bad mood because of the situation that had put me on the plane in the first place, but I still don't think it's appropriate to film in close quarters. It's a public place, sure, but come on. I want to know what you think. Or more importantly, how you would have reacted. Am I the a-hole for throwing my food in the garbage instead of giving it to my daughter? What I did was wrong. I feel stupid. I kind of snapped, I guess. My husband and I have 2 daughters. 12 years old Haley, my stepdaughter, and 2-month-old Hannah. Since I gave birth and up until about 2 weeks ago, I couldn't keep down any food outside of crackers. It would just make me sick, which the doctor said was because of me adjusting to breastfeeding and that it was normal. So up until 2 weeks ago, every single hot meal I made was eaten 100% by Haley and my husband, though I still made myself a portion just in case. Haley always ate my portion before leaving the table. She would see it set out on a plate for me, that I would try picking at, but as soon as she touched it I would stop picking at it and she would just take over. I spoke to her about it a few times because I won't eat anything that another person has touched. It grosses me out. So, she knew. She just didn't care to stop because, it's not like you're going to eat it anyways. My husband has spoken up to her several times and ultimately told me that I just wasn't making enough food because Haley was still starving after eating her plate and second helpings. When I was finally able to keep food down again, I started making more dinner to combat the issue. Like I made a big sheet pan of lasagna. Definitely should have been leftovers. But my husband had 2 helpings and the rest went to Haley because right after I made dinner, the baby was fussy and tired and ultimately needed to be fed, so I excused myself to the other room, and when I came back a half hour later, Haley was forking the last portion out of the pan, using her fingers. So, she touched it, I wouldn't eat it. Or last night, I made 5 medium-sized chicken breasts. My husband had 2, Haley had 2 and I had 1 on my plate. I was eating it slowly, so I wouldn't get sick. Haley ate her entire plate and then said, "You gonna eat that?" And put her finger directly on my chicken. My husband sent her to her room but ultimately, I didn't eat it. She knew what she was doing. Then tonight, I made 5 cheeseburgers for them, I can't eat hamburger, and 2 hot dogs for myself. Again, I ended up having to feed the baby directly after finishing dinner. They had eaten by the time I was finished feeding the baby. I make myself up my 2 hot dogs and Haley reaches over and picks up the hot dog, bun and all, and flips it over, puts it back down and says, "Was just checking if the bread was moldy," and then looks up and sees me glaring at her and says, "Oops, sorry, forgot. Guess you're not gonna eat that now, so I can have it if you want." I took my entire dinner, plate and all, and chucked it in the trash can and walked off. She starts crying to my husband about not meaning to upset me and that she was just hungry. My husband yelled at me for being childish and wasting food and left with his daughter. He said, "Yeah, I get that it's annoying and I reprimand her every single time, but you didn't have to stoop to her level. You're more childish than she is." ETA. It's not just with dinner that this happens. Even when I was eating nothing but crackers, she would still ask me for my food. She eats multiple snacks during the day, as well as big breakfasts and lunches. She's been to a nutritionist and she's healthy. She has a high metabolism and just constantly wants food, as well as bored eats. Never gains a pound though. She's 5 feet 2 inches, 86 pounds. She's not overweight. She barely gains anything. Am I the a-hole for throwing away my boyfriend's potentially illegal yogurt collection? I'm a 29F, my boyfriend is a 30M. We've been living together for 2 years in a little studio in a very expensive, big US city. My boyfriend grew up rurally, with lots of space, enough to collect all kinds of things. He collected action figures and video games and all the normal kid stuff when he was young, but as he grew older, he became interested in more unusual things. As a teen, he had 8 guinea pigs, of different types from different breeders. Since Tide Pods were released 7 years ago, he's saved one of every kind of Tide Pod. He's got a big box of an international variety of electric insulators, those little ceramic hats that power lines wrap around on power poles. He's not a hoarder. He's usually neat, just used to having lots of space for his bizarro collections. At his parents' ranch, he has 2 big rooms full of containers of weird, and impressive, things. He recently became interested in yogurt. He's always hated dairy products, until about a year ago. He not just started drinking milk and sharing ice cream with me, but he's found a love for yogurts. So he now collects them, of course. The problem is that they're perishable. So, until earlier today, our little 550 square foot studio contained about 2,100 cups of yogurt. It comes in tons of varieties. Different types, flavors, textures, containers, made by different companies in different countries. This is like crack to my boyfriend. So he tried to pretty much save a sample of everything he could find. He filled our fridge, bought a new fridge, and then another tiny bedside fridge. He said he didn't want to walk to the fridge at night, but it was obviously a ruse to get more yogurt space. These fridges all filled up with his yogurts, and if you keep them for long, they smell bad. Sometimes the packaging breaks. So our apartment was smelling like rotten milk for the last 2 weeks, and my boyfriend's attitude was, "Oh, it's fine, and just deal with it for a little longer," until I pulled the plug and threw it all out this morning. I was looking at my groceries, which I had to put beside the fridge because there was no space, and everything smelled like rot, and then I kinda snapped and threw it all away. My boyfriend is understandably upset. We've been arguing about whether I crossed a line by throwing away his stuff. And he's especially upset because he, of course, had rare yogurts that were hard to find. In particular, he had some Cuban and Iranian yogurts that you can't get in the US. But I know that we have trade sanctions against Iran and Cuba, so I don't know if it was even legal for him to have them. I asked where he got his Iranian yogurt, but he kept insisting the Iranian yogurt is not the issue here, and that the real issue was me throwing out his precious yogurts without his permission. Am I the a-hole here? Do I need legal advice? Thanks in advance. I'm so exasperated. Am I the a-hole for moving out after my parents told me to give my space to my brother and his family? I, F27, live with my parents. I have a job and I have been helping them by paying rent and buying groceries. My brother is married and has 2 children, a 2-year-old and a newborn. He recently lost his job and has asked my parents if he can move back in until he is back on his feet. My parents told me that I would need to move out of the basement suite in the house, and into my mom's hobby room, while my brother and his family stay with them. I did not agree and they said it was their house and their rules. I don't really own a lot of stuff. Everything in the suite belongs to them. I don't even own my bed. I packed up my clothes and my laptop and I went to work like usual. I work out of town for 14 days, then I get 7 days off. While I was at work I booked an all-inclusive for my week off. It cost me less than rent and food at my parents' house. I told my parents my plans and they were cool with it. I started getting texts a few days ago asking where my rent and grocery money was. I said that I moved out, that if I wasn't living there and eating there I wasn't going to be giving them money. They got really upset because they were counting on the money to help support my brother. They said that I moved out without giving notice. I said that they literally gave away my living space and that I didn't owe them anything if I wasn't there. I asked them how much they are charging my brother. I was giving them $1,800 a month, Canadian money, for rent and food, and I was only home a maximum of 14 days a month. Usually less. My brother called me to say I was an a-hole for not helping him out. I pointed out that he hadn't sent our parents money when he was employed. He said that he had a family to support so he needed his money. He said if I came back he and his family would move upstairs and I could have my space back. I had actually done the math though. I can stay at all-inclusives which cover my room, maid service, food, alcohol, and entertainment for 2/3 of what I was paying my folks. And I don't have to live through Edmonton winters when I'm not working. I sent my parents $500 to help them with groceries, then I went to the beach. My parents, my brother, his wife, and a fair few of my other relatives are saying that I'm an a-hole for abandoning them on a time of need. I think if I'm not there I shouldn't have to pay anything. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for yelling at my sister-in-law's little sister in front of a crowd? This is my spam account cause my family follows my main. I, 26M, met my girlfriend, 24F, Kate when we were in college and have been dating for 3 years. I also would like to mention that Kate now works at a zoo, important for later. My family was very nice and welcoming to Kate. Everyone except Pam and May. My brother Ian and sister-in-law May, both 30, are high school sweethearts and married after college. May has a little sister Pam, 25F, and has always wanted us to date. She would joke about sisters marrying brothers and how she wish I would just ask Pam out. It was annoying but nothing extreme. I do want to make it clear that I told Pam I wasn't interested in her like that. Fine, right? Nope, when I first started dating Kate, Pam and May weren't happy and were oftentimes rude to her. Kate always took the high road and treated them with respect. Today, my family, parents, sister and brother-in-law, Ian and May, and of course Pam, went to the zoo where my girlfriend works as they were holding a special event for their animal ambassadors. Before the team brought out the animals they went over the guidelines, no touching the animals, or trying to touch them, remain seated and quiet, normal things when live animals are coming out. Everything was running smoothly, Kate was glowing and I couldn't believe how happy I was to have found such an amazing woman. Well, time for the final animal and it's a ball python, one of my Kate's favorite ambassador animals. As she was talking she began walking around the room with the snake to give everyone a better view. As Kate walked past Pam, she decided to grab at the snake and yank. Of course, the snake didn't like that and ended up biting Kate and latching on, while also beginning to squeeze her arm. Kate's boss was there and saw the entire thing go down. He immediately took Kate into another room to deal with the snake. I snapped, I stood up and started yelling at Pam. I told her she was a pathetic woman who couldn't handle the fact that I never wanted her. Pam was crying and begging me to stop being mean as we were soulmates. Security ended up coming into the room and told Pam she needed to leave the zoo immediately. Now you're probably wondering about my family, right? You would think they would be angry at Pam? Nope. They're angry at me. My sister and brother-in-law are the only ones on my side as my sister can't stand May and Pam, she finds them incredibly annoying and fake. My brother and parents are saying I was in the wrong for embarrassing Pam and that I needed to apologize. They said I could have pulled her aside and talked to her privately instead of yelling at her in front of a crowd, about 30 to 40 people. All of them say Kate shouldn't have left the room as she made it a bigger deal than it really was. WTH, Kate literally has puncture marks from the snake and a huge bruise on her arm from where the snake was squeezing. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Should I have pulled Pam aside instead of snapping in front of a crowd? Am I the a-hole for threatening to have this car towed? Context: my car is parked in an outdoor private parking lot next to my apartment building. I pay for my parking space. My parking space is located directly at the corner end of the parking lot. Recently, a driver in a red SUV parked directly in front of my car. This has been going on at least 3 nights a week for the past 3 weeks. I finally confronted the driver of the red SUV. Let's call him Robert. I asked Robert to leave since he was blocking my space and making it increasingly difficult for me to leave the premises. Robert told me he couldn't find parking because of the snow and that he was tired. Robert also told me how he lived around the same apartment complex as me. Trying to be polite, I explained to Robert that they had also parked in front of me 2 nights ago after a heavy snowstorm subsided, which was problematic for the snow removal services. The snow removal services were incomplete due to Robert's car causing an obstruction. After all, the snow plow operator will usually form a snow bank at the end of the parking lot, which is right next to my car, and needs to clear middle of the parking lot. Since Robert left his car, the snow removal operator plowed a snow bank around my and Robert's car. Somehow, Robert was able to easily get around the snow bank. I on the other hand wasn't able to get around the snow bank since the snow got frozen. As such, I had to use a metal pickaxe to break the ice and shovel away the ice. My back hurts now. I explained the situation with the snow removal to Robert. I also highlighted to Robert how I pay for parking in the private parking lot, like all other owners of the parked cars here, and that Robert shouldn't just expect to use a parking lot for free. There's no unoccupied space and private means private. Robert dismissed my concerns and just said he can't find parking because of the snow, and that he could advance his car slightly, and leave me some space so I could leave. I wasn't leaving when I confronted Robert. However, I reasserted to Robert that I pay for my parking space and I shouldn't have to make any arrangements to leave my space with anyone. As such, I told Robert if he didn't leave I'd call towing services. Throwing a fit, Robert threw some expletives at my way and dared me to call towing. I said okay, no problem and left. Now I feel like I may have been slightly of an a-hole when asserting my position, paid parking, etc. However, I also feel like there was no reason for me to explain my circumstance. Common sense would dictate you don't block anyone, period. This applies whether it's for someone renting a paid parking space, or free parking space. I also asked Robert to leave several times in our exchange. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend due to what she describes as minor issues? Longtime Reddit lurker, first-time poster. I, 32M, broke up with my girlfriend, 29, over something she calls a minor issue. We met 3 years ago, and although she didn't live with me, she often stayed the nights for the last 8 months, as her roommate situation wasn't a pleasant one, but it all makes sense now. It started with small things. I would come home and place my keys in a bowl for keys and loose change by the door. Usually when I get home I'll wash my face and hands to leave the outside world behind. If I went back to check if they were there, they'd be gone. Whenever I asked her if she had moved them she would deny it. Then after looking for them for about 20 minutes, she would find them in the sofa, or other places like the freezer section of the fridge. This happened a number of times. If I asked her if it was a prank, she would deny it and tell me that I probably had memory issues. After a while I noticed this would only happen when she came home with me. I live alone in the flat my parents left me. It has never happened with other friends. From keys, it escalated to my phone, tablet, books, my wood carving set, and other things that would end up in the wrong part of the flat, when there would be no reason for me to move them there. The other issue is that I strongly resemble a very famous, married, actor including the height and voice, and she has used his name to book us tables without my knowledge and used it as a way to get better treatment at the cinema and when I am out shopping with her. She even did it when we were recently in his home country. I have several times told her to knock this off, as someday that guy might get accused of cheating on his wife when he might be the most monogamous person on earth. Besides the obvious lying, why ruin someone else's happiness? I also can't stand it when someone mistakes me for him, asking for a picture/autograph, and I correct them, but she would jump in and say, it's him, but he wants privacy. I would then keep my mouth shut to not embarrass her. The keys thing really bothered me, and although I made a spare set a while back, it still gave me anxiety when she did this whole missing routine. A week ago I set up cameras in my home, and they recorded her coming in with me, and while I walked towards the bathroom she doubled back and went to the entrance and picked up the keys. I did the same thing I have done in the past and asked her where they were. She pretended to look for them and then she found them where she put them, camera in the living room too. When I showed her the footage she went crimson, and refused to leave when I told her I had enough, and we should go our separate ways. She even said that although I had evidence for this one prank, I had no proof for her being responsible for the other times. In that respect she is right, but who else could it have been? I told her that I didn't like her hunger for fame either, and the way she talks down to women who approach me thinking I am someone else. Even if everything else is okay in our relationship, I can't ignore either issue anymore. She thinks I am overreacting and told me she will change if I take her back. She won't admit to hiding my keys more than once, passing it off as a silly prank, and her lack of owning her actions is really getting under my skin. Like she believes she didn't do it all the other times. Am I the a-hole for telling my 18-years-old daughter to either sue for child support, or get out of my house? My 18-years-old daughter Ava dropped out of high school after getting pregnant by her then-boyfriend, who is 19. Ava will be 19 soon, has no job and a 10-month-old baby. Her boyfriend Andrew moved from Jacksonville, Florida to Miami for college. He never actually broke up with Ava, but instead told her that they were still together, and even went as far as to leave a sleeping bag and other toiletries in her room to show her that they were essentially a family. Now he has changed his number and blocked Ava on social media, after accusing her of cheating, so this could not be his baby. He ignores all communication offering for him to prove he's not the dad. I have been handling Ava with kid gloves, but here is the situation. I am a single mom, and Ava is my second child of 3. My older daughter, 20F, lives at home but works weekends as a barista, and just got a job working 3 hours a week doing QuickBooks for a church, all while studying to be an ultrasound tech. She pays $150 a month in rent, and if she wants new clothes or to eat out, that's all her. My youngest son is 10 and it's obviously my responsibility to pay for what my ex's support payments won't cover. However, Ava seems to think that because she technically can qualify as a high school super senior, that she is essentially still a high schooler who can come home and expect that her food, shelter, and new clothes plus fun expenses are covered, no questions asked. And that the biggest problem with Andrew going silent is the fact that he's a jerk and some college girl has stolen him away. That is not adult thinking, and I'm getting worried that Ava will never get it if I don't spell it out for her. I told her that she either has to show me concrete proof that she's working towards a GED, and then if she passes, some sort of useful certification, in which case I'll let her stay for free, or she needs to get a job. Ask her sister if any restaurants are hiring. If a gym needs a front desk clerk. Whatever. She told me she would rather just do high school. I said okay, but either way, employed or not, Andrew is the dad, and just because he's 19, doesn't mean he should get off any easier than a 39-year-old, who got his wife pregnant and then left. But Ava got angry, and either Andrew or his siblings got it into her head that if she filed, he would lose his scholarship or be forced out of college. And that the judge would probably say that Andrew cannot make any money in college, so she gets no support. I told her she does not understand how much diapers and everything else costs, and if she does not file for support, she is about to find out, because I'm kicking her out with $100 and that's it. And then if she needs diapers she can go to the grocery store and see what the total comes out to. Am I the a-hole? I also printed out flyers about government social programs and taped it to her door. Edit. I'd also like to add that my daughter considered termination, but Andrew, whose family is Mormon, said that she'd go to hell if she did that. And that even thinking of going on the Planned Parenthood website would require her to repent. Am I the a-hole for telling my roommate that I don't give a duck about her boyfriend's allergies? I, 24F, have been living with my roommate Layla, 25F, for about 10 months. We have a 2-year lease, so I really want to fix this, so we're not miserable for the next year, and to start I need to see if I'm in the wrong. Layla started dating Kyle about 6 months ago. Kyle has severe food allergies to shellfish, nuts and soy, as well as a lot of more mild and moderate allergies. I use nuts and soy a lot in my cooking and some occasional shrimp. At first, Layla would tell me that Kyle was coming over and I would just adjust whatever I was planning on making, if it was something that would be aerosolized, mostly nuts, and this was fine. He's never had any reactions at our apartment from my food. But it slowly escalated and now they want me to not keep any ingredient in the apartment that could cause him anaphylaxis, even if I'm not actively eating or cooking it while he's over. I've refused and they've both pushed back a lot on it and I snapped a little and told them I don't give a duck about his allergies. I can accommodate him to an extent but I don't care if the contents of my cabinet make him uncomfortable. He doesn't need to be near my things at all. They're being very dramatic and insisting I'm gonna end him with my selfishness by having closed jars of nuts in the kitchen I pay to use. But I'm not going to have my diet restricted by someone who doesn't even live here. Layla isn't speaking to me at all right now and I feel a little bad now because I do understand how serious allergies are, but I also think they're overextending boundaries by telling me what I can or can't eat when he's not even here. Update. I sat down with Layla a few days after my initial post, and really talked with her about why I felt her and Kyle's request was unacceptable, and I laid out my biggest concerns. I eat mostly plants, so nuts and soy are like 50% of my protein. So my grocery bill would increase because I'd have to make it up in animal products. Who's going to pay for that? I'm not vegetarian but I don't really want to eat like that and I definitely don't want to pay for it, so would they make up that increase? I honestly didn't trust them to stop there. I already did what I felt was a reasonable accommodation and it wasn't enough, so how long till they take coconut, eggs and tomatoes from me too? It was weird AF to ask me in the first place, and I felt really disrespected because this is my home and I don't take second place to a guest. I can to her, personally, of course, but that doesn't extend to the apartment. I said I would agree to continue not using his serious allergens when he was present, or soon to be, and that was the line. It didn't go over well at all and Layla told me I was overreacting, and I could just do it, and kept talking over me when I tried to say that I wouldn't. Eventually she slipped up with the, well, what if he moved in, and I said absolutely not and ended the conversation with her for the night. We argued in circles about it for nearly 2 weeks and once it was out, she didn't drop it. I realized it wasn't going to get better, so I did what I didn't want to do, and told her that I was going to the landlord about breaking my part of the lease and she freaked out. I don't know where Kyle's money goes, but apparently he doesn't have any, because she was yelling about not being able to afford it on her own and he couldn't help even if he moved in. I told her that this had gone way too far and I didn't think I could be happy living here with her anymore. If it were easier for her to leave instead, that would be fine too. She was really upset and I said I wouldn't force her out, or leave her suddenly on the lease alone, but it was one or the other. Eventually she accepted it and decided she would move back in with her dad. That was the end of April and she's fully moved out as of this week. My childhood best friend, Allie, has been flip-flopping on moving to my city for forever now, and me calling and saying I had a cheap open bedroom if she came right away, got her to finally pull the trigger on it. And it helped Layla out because she didn't have to pay to break the lease since I agreed to cover the full rent at my own risk. Allie has stuff to tie up in our home state still, but she's already sent me half of July's rent. I just gotta squeeze for a little while but I'll make it. I'm super excited to see her and show her around. Plus we've been cooking together since 4th grade, so that'll be a nice change, lol. And I can get a cat. It's been a bit of a rough couple of months, but I'm very happy with how things are looking right now, so I just wanted to share with you guys.